Good morning and welcome to the Orange County School Board's Rule Development Workshop and Work Session for Tuesday, December 5th, 2023. The Rule Development Workshop has been scheduled today for the purpose of discussing the following school board policies: IHAM, Local School Wellness; JJ, Extracurricular Activities; JFABB, Foreign Exchange Students; and JFABC, International Student Admission. During the Rule Development Workshop portion of this meeting, the school board will only be hearing comments on proposed revisions to the aforementioned school board policies. Because this is not a regularly scheduled school board meeting, there'll be no non-agenda period in which the public would normally address the school board on germane topics that are related to the work of the board. Should you wish to address the school board on another topic, please do so at the next regularly scheduled school board meeting. The work session portion of this meeting is to discuss school board policy BEDH, pilot program for public comment. The public will not have an opportunity to participate in this work session to provide public comment because this is the school board's opportunity to work with staff. Once the final direction is provided, we will follow the policy revision process set forth in Chapter 120 Florida statutes. Thank you all so much for joining us this morning. Board members are attending in person, with the exception of Member Gould, who is attending remotely, and Member Felder, who is on her way. She is en route to join us in a few minutes. To my fellow board members and district staff, please remember when speaking, make sure you're speaking directly into your microphone and that it's turned on so that our Orange TV and YouTube viewers can hear you clearly. And now we will begin with a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. And now for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hi, ladies.
Hey. All right. Before we move on to the business we're scheduled for, let me first recognize our general counsel for an announcement.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have an executive session request to make. Pursuant to Section 286.011, subsection 8 of the Florida statutes, in accordance with Board Policy BEC, an entity may meet in private with its attorney to discuss pending litigation to which the entity is presently a party before a court or administrative agency, provided certain conditions are met, including the requirement that a transcript of the executive session will be made part of the public record upon conclusion of the litigation. In this case, I'm requesting the school board's advice concerning pending litigation styled as Keith Matei as PNG of AM versus Orange County School Board, case number 2022-CA-1690-0 on Tuesday, December 12th, 2023 at 3:00 p.m. The executive session will be a closed meeting held in conference room E at the RBELC and will take approximately 1 hour, and a notice has been drafted for posting. Those in attendance will be Teresa Jacobs, Chair; Angie Gallo, Vice Chair; Maria Salamanca; Alicia Ferrant; Pam Gould; Vicki Elaine Felder; Karen Castro-Dental, and Melissa Bird, school board members; Dr. Maria Vasquez, Superintendent; Amy Enroll, General Counsel; John Palmerini, Deputy General Counsel; William Lawton, Esquire, Outside Counsel; Courtney Tornade, Esquire, Outside Counsel; and a court reporter. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. All right, let me turn the meeting over to Dr. Vasquez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As you stated, we are here today to workshop rule development for our local school wellness policy, extracurricular activities, foreign exchange students, and international student admissions. We're going to begin the presentation with Vivian Kokotis, one of our attorneys, and then we'll have other staff that present the other items.
Good morning, board members. I'm going to start with just a brief overview of the timeline and the actions taken thus far, and then we will go over the proposed revisions for the policies that we've discussed. They've already been workshopped, so this is our second round to go through the proposed revisions. The policies went to Cabinet on October 2nd of this year. They went to work session on October the 3rd. We're here today for rule development. Moving forward, they would be submitted for board approval at next week's meeting on December the 12th, and then they would be effective upon approval. The policies listed, we've gone over IHAM, JJ, JFABB, JFABC, and the first policy for consideration is IHAM, which is the local school wellness policy. The majority of the revisions in this policy are updating statutory authority. We did also update some of the language to make it more current with existing regulations. And then based on the last work session that we had, we did take your comments into consideration, and we made additional revisions that I'll go over with you right now once I get a Word version of the policy up. All right. Excuse me. Technical difficulties. I need to transition this over. So I reduce this, but it's not reducing from there.
Might have to end the presentation for the moment.
Just shut it down. Yeah, but why doesn't the whole page come up? That's all right. We'll just go forward the way it is. Okay. All right. On page 1, at the bottom of page 1, the statutory authority was updated, as well as on the top of page 2. On page 3, in the middle, statutory authority was updated to address, bless you, to address physical education and physical activity goals. Then, under the section regarding recess, specific authority was updated as well. For healthy school teams, we went back based on the board comments and we reviewed the CDC guidelines again and altered the program requirements that are listed on page 4 to really reflect the substance of the areas that the healthy school team should consider based on the CDC guidelines, rather than just relying on the titles for the areas of consideration. And so those sections have been amended on page 4. On page 5, again, we have some statutory authority updates. And then per the board's request, we did include language regarding the CEP program, what the program is, how schools become eligible, along with language ensuring that in the event the CEP program is discontinued, that there are interventions in place for students to receive free and reduced lunch to the extent that they qualify. Continuing on to page 6, we revised the language to include choking, allergies, and food recalls as part of food-related emergencies that would be dealt with in the event they occurred. And then the rest of the page is really to address Scrivener's errors in the policy that were not previously caught. Page 7 is really just Scrivener's errors, renumbering the paragraphs. Page 8 is an update to authority. Page 10 is the purpose that we started off with revising this policy, was to move the defibrillator language from IHAM to JJ, which deals with extracurricular activities. And the decision was suggested for the board's consideration that this language would be better suited in policy JJ. That page also contains some updates to authority. And then the very last page of this policy, which is page 11, updated authority and dealt with the Scrivener's error of district leadership rather than the area superintendent notation. Does the board have any questions?
We have a couple of questions. I have one question. Oh, let me get to it quickly. I'm sorry. On page 6, under number 4, where it talks about dining room facilities, the second sentence, supervisory staff, i.e. teachers, aides, custodial staff, et cetera, shall receive training in appropriate dining practices, emergencies, including but not limited to choking, allergies, and food recalls. So, who exactly, I know it mentions all these type of positions, but who exactly would be responsible to have that training? And like, is it, and maybe that's a question for the superintendent. I'm thrilled to see this. I just wasn't quite sure.
The training is done at the school site, and they work through the principal to have those trainings. Most of those are done at the beginning of the year before school starts.
No, I was trying to figure out, like, who actually has to have the training under this? Because it says supervisory staff, but then it says teachers, aides, custodial staff. So
who needs to have the training that's mentioned in there? I'm going to defer to Mark if I'm wrong on this, but I'm assuming it's the staff that's in the cafeteria who is supervising. So if we have paraprofessionals that are there, if we have teachers that are assisting, they all receive the training as part of their supervisory duties.
okay. All right. Thank you. And Vice Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have 2 easy questions. Number 1, it's on page 4. I'm curious on school climate. What is a representative of school climate? Like, who would be a representative from school climate that would serve on this committee?
School climate is a general term that the CDC uses to address extracurricular activities at school, athletics, programs that are available to students. And so I think that, perhaps a dean or an assistant principal at the school could certainly address what programs are available to students as part of the goal of this school team, which is to address the whole student.
And was the social and emotional removed because we added student services mental health?
There was a concern that the social and emotional language created some sort of a conflict with current Florida law, but when I went back and I reviewed each one of these categories, the title says social and emotional school climate, but when you actually look at the substantive information that the CDC is asking the school to consider, it is the depth of resources that are available to the student beyond the pure educational time.
Okay, thank you. And then the last question, or I guess clarification, is on page 7 when it talks about fundraisers. And this is just kind of nitpicky, but we don't have junior high schools. So I was just curious why it says elementary schools, middle/junior high schools, senior high schools, and then combination schools K through 8. So we only have middle schools in our district. We don't have junior high schools. So I was just curious as why we didn't remove the junior high schools, just as not to confuse people.
Madam Chair.
Yes,
Oh,
recognize.
sorry, Vivian.
Go ahead.
So when I did this original policy with Laura Gilbert way back when we did all this, and we took this language directly from the federal guidelines, and they still refer to some of them as junior high schools and senior high schools, and that was the distinction. So that's kind of, we kept the language consistent with that.
But our policy should be unique to Orange County Public Schools, not based on what others are doing across the country. So I could see taking that language, but it should still be a reflection of OCPS, because that's what the board is approving as a policy for OCPS, and we don't have junior high schools.
That's why we added the word middle schools before it.
I still think it should be removed. I don't know why we don't have junior high schools. I don't know why we can't just say middle schools and then high schools to alleviate confusion. So some across the country they do, but I mean, I just think that a policy that's specific to Orange County Public Schools should be a reflection of Orange County Public Schools and not what's happening across the country.
I think just looking at board members and body language, I think most of the board members agree that there's no value in having it in here, and if anything, it could be confusing. But I do understand why the general counsel kept it in because of the federal language, but I think the direction of the board would be to remove it. Anything else, Vice Chair?
That's all I have. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Member Farran.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mine is just really quick, just a quick question to clarify. Page 3 for recess, more for the superintendent, I guess. Just let me find out where it said it. Hold on. Under recess, that last sentence, it says physical activity will not be used or withheld as a punishment. I do know of teachers who, if the kids don't have their homework in or they don't, certain things they'll say you don't get recess or you have to stay indoors. So I just want to make sure, so how does that work if it's?
So that should not be happening. If a teacher is withholding recess, that needs to be brought to the attention of the administration. Because recess is a part of the curriculum, we would no sooner tell a child, well, you didn't do your homework, so you're not going to go to math. And so if it's happening, parents need to alert administration at the school so it could be addressed.
Okay.
Additionally, we can send out communication when we come back from the holiday break so that teachers are reminded that recess is part of the curriculum.
Perfect. Love it. Thank you so much.
All right. Dr. Vasquez, I think we're ready to move on.
Madam Chair, if I can, for the record, we did not receive any, for this rule development workshop portion, we did not receive any comments via email or any person that wants to speak on to these policies during today's rule development workshop.
Thank you,
That's okay.
Member, or Miss. Okay, ready?
I will
You leaving? Are we
tender this
losing
now
our-
to Amy, who will
Oh, you're up next.
go through JJ.
Madam Chair, for the record, as the board is aware, Sarah Korn is now the new general counsel for Osceola. school district, and so our own general counsel is going to pitch it for her.
Yeah. Perfect.
Okay, Ms. Enville, you're recognized.
All right, thank you. So up for next is policy JJ, extracurricular activities. And as you recall, let me borrow this too, sorry. Okay. The policy JJ is being revised to include the supplemental programs and to add a new section requiring parental permission for participation in school-sponsored events, activities, and supplemental programs. In addition, Section 1006.165 Florida statutes requires each public school that is a member of the Florida High School Athletic Association to have an automated external defibrillator, an AED, on school grounds. So the new section is added to this policy and taken out of policy IHAM, like Ms. Kokotis just generally said. We also have made some extra formatting changes as well. If you'll hold on just a second, I'll pull up policy JJ so you can see. We had an extensive, It's showing up on my screen, but it's not showing up on your screen. Same thing. Close out the PowerPoint. Just close it completely. There we go. Okay. There we go. Okay, perfect. And I have Mr. Flores with me too, so we can go over some issues if you have any questions. Like we said before, we added supplemental programs. We added this similar to the work session you had on October 3rd, definition of school-sponsored events or activities, definition of supplemental program. The change that we had extension discussion about this, if you remember, at your school board work session on the 3rd, and then we also had further discussion about it with cabinet again. And so if you remember, the discussion was, what if they're just attending? Do we need written parental consent if they're just attending a football game or whatever? We did some we're cognizant with our fellow school boards, and we found 2 districts that are requiring parental permission for everything a student attends. And those 2 districts are Seminole and Lee. The rest of them, when we were talking about them, especially with our Florida School Board Attorneys Association, we made a distinction between participation in and attendance at. And so the footnote that Cabinet has added was mere attendance at a spectator at an event that is open to the public is not contemplated in the purview of this policy. For example, athletics participating in the school sponsor event would be required to comply with all FHSAA rules. Basically, they have to sign, the parents have to sign in order for them to be part of the athletic program. Students who wish to join clubs and students participating in performing arts events would all require permission from their parents or legal guardians anyway to participate in those. But students who are spectators attending as members of the public, i.e., at a football game, at a play, at a concert, these are all things that you all discussed on October 3rd, who are not active participants in such events, would not be required to provide permission from parents or legal guardians. So that's the clarification that we added in there. We think that comports with the 2 rules that I also had sent to you earlier. They're also on BoardDocs here. We think that comports with that and kind of clarifies for staff. And in addition to this policy, once it moves forward, we have drafted a deputy superintendent's memo about parental permission that will go through specific examples such as this, that will clarify for staff certain procedures, frequently asked questions, to make it more clear about what is required and what is not. If you were you're not a member of the club, but you want to go to one of the club-sponsored events, then that person would have to get parental permission to go to that club-sponsored event if they're not a member of that particular club, because students who are members of clubs are getting parental permission for that anyway. So, hope I explained that okay. Again, same changes that we just cleaned up some of the language here. Moving on to page 3, we cleaned up some of the language again. We updated the specific authority, added the word athletic, Again, we coordinated with district leaders. We took out the area superintendents because we've had a organizational structure change. Changed usher to ensure. And then the well-being of students participating in co-curricular, extracurricular activities that athletic programs was added. This is the AED language that we talked about on October 3rd. That was taken out of policy IHAM and added into this one. And then we added a whole new section about parental permission for participation in school-sponsored events, activities, and supplemental programs. So to go along with the footnote that you have on the first page, this is the language that comports with the parental Bill of Rights in Chapter 1014. So that section has been added. That concludes my presentation.
All right, thank you. Dr. Castrodeno.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Ms. Emball. I have some questions. First, however, I like the discrepancy between attendance and being a member of something. I think that really will help streamline this burdensome paper collection. My questions may be more procedural, but who maintains the permission slips?
Those are maintained at the school.
So like a club sponsor would not hold on to those for that club that they sponsor, but someone in the office? I mean, where?
I'm not sure of the logistics, so.
That depends on the school, a school-based decision. Some schools may have that the club sponsor, some may have the AD that holds on to them. We allow the schools to make that decision.
Okay. And then this, I guess, would also be a procedural decision, but where would students get those permission slips? Would they have to ask the sponsor?
So yes, usually, so when a sponsor's going to, like for FHSAA, it's part of the packet. If you're going to join a club, it's, if you want to join the I don't know, Pink Elephants Club, the sponsor will send out a permission form, so they have those. So it's depending on each activity that is sponsored. You go on a field trip, that kind of thing. So it comes from whoever is coordinating the activities for the students.
Okay. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Member Castrodeno. I have one question, and it's on page 5. It's similar to the other question that I had about who in the cafeteria needed to be trained on choking, et cetera. And my reason for asking the question is not that I think we need to change the policy language, but from a logistical standpoint, I wanted to know with regard to 1A, where it says each employee or volunteer who's reasonably expected to use an AED must complete this training. And again, just to explain why I kind of want to understand the logistics of how that's defined. Is this similar to choking? If we have a situation, it's going to be imperative that people know who is supposed to respond. And I'm assuming that in all cases, like in the cafeteria, in all cases, there will be multiple people who are trained in Hemlock and other maneuvers. And I'm assuming the same is the case here. And I'm sure from a operational level, there's a plan for that. But as a board member, I'm just asking out of kind of curiosity and concern.
Good morning, Chair Jacobs, board members, Dr. Vasquez. All coaches are required to be AED and CPR certified now by the state. So they all have to have training in order to be a paid or unpaid coach in our district.
All right.
Additionally, the school administration is aware of who has been trained on the use of the AED. Many times they might have additional staff, including maybe the school nurse, some of the deans, or some of the other staff members that are on the admin team.
And if we go backwards just for a minute in the cafeteria, is there kind of a similar knowledge in the cafeteria about who is trained? Because I think, if I'm right, I think most of our employees are actually trained.
No, that's not an accurate
Oh,
statement.
okay. I'm
Most of
sorry,
our
I
employees
forget
are
where-
not trained on the use of the AED.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Not talking about AED. I'm talking about Hemlock maneuver. I was backing up to the cafeteria.
So again, at the school, the administrative team are aware of who has that training and would be able to reach out to the staff member if needed.
All right, thank you. And Member Front.
Thank you. I don't have any questions. I just wanted to say thank you for just fixing up the language. As a parent, it's very appreciative. First, to have the parental permission to attend different events or be a part of clubs or sports or different things like that. But it also is very, very nice to know that we don't need to have parental permission to attend every little event, like a sporting event. Or will this also include prom? Or is that something that they'll still need to have parental permission to attend prom and all those events?
So when they purchase the tickets, if I'm mistaken, there are also like guidelines to the behavior that is expected. Talks about drugs. Talks about who your date is if it's not somebody from the school, the age. So there's more to prom than just them buying the ticket. So there's more. I don't want to say that it's parental permit. I think the parents also sign, as well as the student, that they agree to the behavior that is expected at prom.
Okay, perfect. Just curious, because I know that was a question before. But so really appreciate that. And then I think that switching the AED and all that language over to this policy is very, it's streamlined a lot more, and I think it makes more sense. So I appreciate that and all your hard work.
All right, thank you. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have a quick question. So it's in statute that all of our coaches have to be trained with AED? Did I hear that correctly?
Yes, ma'am, that is correct.
So other than coaches, what's required by state for them to be trained?
Every 2 years, they have to update their AED and CPR and first aid card.
Is it just coaches, or does it include athletic directors?
It includes athletic directors as well, ma'am.
Thank you. So being that that's in statute, shouldn't that be in policy? Shouldn't we have that in policy, that those people are required, so that we're all aware of the requirement per statute? Because it doesn't list in here that coaches or AD are required to take that training every 2 years.
I would have to look at the statutory citations that we have in the specific authority. I'm guessing it's in one of those three. I haven't looked at them for today. I'll look and see. We can add it to policy, but we would have to start the policy revision process over. So we can add it for our next revision.
Is it somewhere in policy?
No, we don't have that. It's required because if the statute changes and requires it every 1 year, then we'd have to go back and make a policy change. There is a provision in your policies, in the policy BE, that says that we have to follow all the laws, and this would be included in those laws, that our coaches and ADs have to be trained in AED and CPR.
Okay. I'm just confused because usually when there's something that comes down through the state statutorily, we include it in policy. That's a common practice that we've done since I've been on the board. So I just don't understand why, if there's something that's in statute that relates to the AED, why we wouldn't have it in this paragraph relating to the AED, especially since the chair had questions on who's going to get trained. It would make it more clear if we're saying training, that we would be explicit with who needs to be trained per state statute. So yeah, I am requesting that this come back before the board, because I think this is incomplete and it doesn't follow state statute. Thank you.
All right, thank you. To follow up on Vice Chair's comment, I agree that most of the time or at least a lot of times, we see the language, and sometimes we ask the question if it's we have asked the question if it's in state statute, do we need to say it? We usually do. So I think it makes sense. That coming back to my one question on this, I understand the employees, Mr. Flores, but it says employee or volunteer. So would we actually be expecting volunteers to be trained? And if so, coming back, just because this is, if I'm reading it, I'm not sure who's reasonably expected, and I'm not sure that we could define that in here, but what would be your expectation of who's reasonably expected?
That would be the individuals that are in direct contact with our student athletes.
Okay.
Madam-
Go ahead, I'm
No,
sorry.
Madam Chair, that also includes non-faculty coaches because they're not employees, they're volunteers.
So, on a personal example, one of my sons coached lacrosse. I think he kind of was like a quasi-coach his senior year, but after he graduated, he coached lacrosse for 1 or 2 years. So in that, today, he would be expected, even though he's not a paid staff, he would be expected to be trained, correct?
Correct, ma'am.
Great,
That
thank
is
you.
correct.
Yeah. All right, thank you. Without any further questions, Dr. Vasquez, we're back to you.
If I may, Madam Chair, I'm looking, so the statute that's cited, it's in your policy, it doesn't specifically, looking at, I'm sorry, going back to this one. This statute right here, 768-1325, which says the use of AEDs by employees and volunteers is covered. It specifically has the citation, beginning June 1st, 2021, a school employee or volunteer with current training in CPR and use of a defibrillator must be present at each athletic event during and outside the school year, including athletic contexts, practices, workouts, and conditioning sessions. The training must include completion of a course in CPR and basic first aid that includes CPR training and demonstrated proficiency in the use of a defibrillator. Each employee or volunteer who is reasonably expected to use a defibrillator must complete this training. So it's in your policy, we just didn't copy it word for word. And then I would need direction on if you want me to copy that particular language into the policy. Do you want to?
Can I ask
Yes.
one clarifying question, and then I'll go to the vice chair? If I'm better at reading
I know.
than hearing, but what I thought I heard did not say that all coaches have to have the training. I am fully in support of all coaches should, but does it say that?
Sorry, I'm having.
I know
trouble
it says,
reading.
everyone
So there's a
reasonably
there's a number of provisions in this particular statute. So it's a
Okay.
number of pages.
I know I read that language last night.
It also
so-
has each athletic coach and sponsor shall annually complete training on external heat illness. It's a huge.
Okay.
There's a whole big requirement. So. We'll be happy to copy and paste it into the statute or the policy if you want to, but then if they change any of that language, we're going to have to do an annual. Right now, I don't think the number itself, like 768.1325, is not going to change, but we can certainly do whatever the board directs us to do.
All right, let me go to vice chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Is it our expectation that our coaches and athletic directors get trained every year, regardless of statute?
Sorry.
It is every 2 years, ma'am.
Every 2
Yes.
years. I'm sorry,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
misspoke. Yes.
It is. It
So
is a requirement.
if our expectation is that they go through that training every 2 years, regardless of if the statute changes, I think it should be in policy because our policy won't change if that's an expectation of the district. So I believe that that language should be in policy. Thank you.
All right, any input from the board about including language that says that all coaches shall be trained and certified in the use of an AED, and I guess in order to keep their certification, that's an every 2-year thing. So something to that effect. Any disagreement with including that language? All right.
Can I have
Yes.
clarification?
Yes.
So we're going to have to start the process over because that would be a substantive change and bring this back to you all for another rule development workshop and final school board approval. So would you, so these 4 policies are traveling together. So this would travel with IHAM. If we remove the AEDs from IHAM and don't put it into JJ, it is not in a policy. We still have to follow it because it's the law. But are you asking, one, for us to hold back on all those and bring it back to you a rule development workshop in the beginning of January or February? Or do you want to approve it as is and we can just amend this particular section in our next revisions?
That would be my preference.
I don't want to hold up the policy end that we need to change it. I just, I wish we would have caught it previously, but it wasn't, that information that it's required in statute or that it's an expectation of the district wasn't really given to the board, because I think we would have caught it and changed it earlier. So I'm a little disappointed about that, but no, we can bring it back.
I agree with that. I think we should move forward. I want to take some personal responsibility here because we did have this language. And I'm asking questions today about the cafeteria and about this that I didn't ask then. So that I just want to own my responsibility that if I had asked that question then, we would have been in a position on both of these if we needed to make changes to do so. I think absolutely we should move forward, and I think there's agreement on that. And I think it will be a simple matter to include that revision. So with that, I think we're ready to move on. Dr. Vasquez.
Thank you. Our next policy is policy JFABB, foreign exchange students.
You want me to drive? Please. Okay. I don't feel so alone.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Superintendent, and board members.
Good morning, Ms. Neal. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm here to present the policy JFABB for foreign exchange students and go through the red line real quick. So, we're good? Okay. Not many changes, just the Council on Standards for International Students or Education Travel was updated, spelled out. Headline on applications entered. We did remove cassette tape and updated pupil assignment to student enrollment on page 3. And per previous conversation at the workshop, we added in 7, unless lunch is provided to the entire school free of charge. That was the statement where it did not state whether, it stated purposefully that international students had to pay for lunch, but with free lunch, if it's offered, they do not, and other student-related expenses. And I think that actually on the final page, we spelled out or abbreviated FHSAA and added athletic headlines or, headers for titles to be consistent, transcripts, registration and enrollment. And we added following provisions outlined in board policy JCA as their, for school board members who may reside outside of Orange County, and updated the specific authority.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from board members? All right, seeing none, Dr. Vasquez, we're back to you.
And Stacey, I think you have the next one as well.
Yes.
International student admissions.
JFABC. Real quick, the red lines that were there previously, request and approval in A, and then I think we updated the wording in B. If approved, the student shall be issued an I-20 from the Student Enrollment Department per International Customs Enforcement. The I-20 can be issued for 1 year only and is non-renewable. D is there, and we took out all of 2 for international adult technical students, as we do not issue I-20s for those students. And the specific authorities was updated. There's a typo. There's a typo. Where? Specific authority. The H is missing. And we'll put a H in specific authority.
Thank you. Authority.
Authority. And actually that concludes what I have.
All right, thank you. Any board member comments? I don't see anything. Thank you, Ms. Neal.
Thank
Dr.
you.
Vasquez.
Now we've come to the part of the meeting where the board has an opportunity to discuss the pilot program for public input. Ms. Envil, will you be?
Dr. Vasquez, I'm so sorry. Can I interrupt for just a minute from a formality standpoint? I didn't ask, but I am assuming that we had no other members of the public here that wanted to speak to any of these.
We did not. We
Thank
did
you.
not receive any emails, and we did not have any in-person request forms filled out
All right,
for any
thank
of the
you.
policies for the rule development workshop portion.
All right, thank you. I'm sorry, I should have asked during
Nope, that's good.
the time period, but I don't want to overlook that. Back to you. I'm so sorry. Pardon me?
I believe you asked for the first one.
I only
First,
asked for the first one, yes, and I didn't ask after that, so. All right, Dr. Vasquez.
Yep. So we are now at the point of our meeting where the board will be able to have a discussion about the pilot program for public input. And I am going to turn it over to Ms. Envil.
I'll be happy to facilitate the conversation, but I do need, we need some direction on what we're going to do moving forward. If you recall, there was a number of, the original pilot program was entered into back, let's see, you had original work session on July 18th, and then you talked about it on September 26th, and again on October 3rd, and I believe again on October 10th, at which time you just asked that we just extend it until you were able to have this work session to talk about things again. So you have a number of things back on October 10th. My notes indicate that you had discussed starting regular school board meetings at 4:00 p.m., that speakers could sign up then at 3:30. And then you had talked about not moving non-agenda public comment to the very, very end of your meeting. But we just need some direction on what you would like to do moving forward, because staff is going to have to, for the January meeting, your next meeting is January 16th. If you're going to extend the pilot program, then we need to, and if there is any changes, we need to make sure that we have time to get the word out to the public and to update the website accordingly.
All right, thank you. Okay. Vice Chair Gallo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the portal that will go online, because I know one of the concerns that we received from the thought exchange that Dr. Border did was really just people having to wait so long and then having to come so early to sign up. So in January, will that portal, the online, be available? Will it be up and running?
So I want to say yes. I don't know that Shelley's here today, but I sent you all the link so you could test it internally. We've got some really good comments and feedbacks from them. Staff, school board services staff, and I have worked with IT. We have there's a whole back of house aspect of it where we can see, like during a meeting, there's a live view where we can see who has signed up ahead of time. I don't know if you've all had a chance to practice with the sign-in thing, so you can kind of see it comes back to you. Right now, the link that I sent to you is only internal, so you have to be on board property in order to use it. And it'll send you an email back saying, thank you for signing up. You know, you're scheduled at this time for this meeting and those kind of things. But yes, I do believe we will have that ready to go in January, the sign-up portion online, but then we would need some direction from you. The issue that we're having with the sign-in portal, we have to be able to have a cut-off time that nobody can sign up anymore. So what board members had discussed before was releasing the online sign-up portion at the same time that we release the agenda, so 7 days in advance, they could sign in. And the automatic, even though they're going to sign in, like let's say somebody signs in on Wednesday morning at 8 a.m., we still have that priority of parents, employees, students first, and then Orange County residents, and then non-Orange County residents. So say a non-Orange County resident signs up at 8 a.m. on Wednesday, they might be the first person to sign up, but depending on whoever else gets in there, it's going to they may be bumped around in the queue, if you will. But that, I'm not speaking technologically about the IT stuff because I'm not really familiar with the inner workings of that, but we have tested it out. A number of us sat in a room and we pretended that we were signing up for a particular meeting, and you can see how it bumps it forward and puts it in that category. But we need some cutoff time as to when we can stop so somebody could feasibly be sitting in the audience when you start your meeting and fill it out by, right now you have it open till 5:15 because your meeting starts at 5. So somebody could sit here and fill it out electronically that way. We're also going to have the paper as a backup in case something goes awry, or if there's someone who is not able to sign up physically. We have iPads that we're going to make available out at the front, and a stand on there along with, so that when somebody comes in and they don't want to fill out the paper form or whatever, they can fill it on the iPad themselves if they haven't filled out by themselves on their phone or on their computer ahead of time.
So a couple questions. I think that the cutoff time, if you're going to sign up electronically, should be the Monday prior to Tuesday. So I think like at close of business on Monday, you should, that's just my opinion. I'd be curious what the board wants. It would be shut down, and then anybody who chooses to speak would then have to sign up day of. So my question would be, for the iPads that we have set up, would those strictly be, you would have a choice between a written one or doing it on the computer, but it would be it wouldn't be the same portal that others would be using to sign up the week prior, because that would I would think would get a little confusing.
It probably would, and that's kind of what we need direction from you on, and then we'd have to talk to our IT team. I mean, the attentiveness to detail that's gone into everything. It's kind of like remember those old Choose Your Own Adventure books? We've tried to contemplate every situation that could occur, and so what I'm hearing from you is perhaps closing the online portal sign up for priority, maybe by close of business the Monday before the meeting starts, and then those who sign up at the meeting itself, they would be kind of bumped to the end. Does that make sense? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. So what I would propose is, yes, we shut it down, so it gives us a whole day to kind of, if we have to kind of weed through them, to prioritize them if the system doesn't do it automatically, and then have them sign up. My other preference would really be, so that we don't burden our school board staff, that we just leave the forms, because we used to do this years ago, leave the forms out there, let people fill it out as they come in, and all they have to do is walk it over to one of our police officers, law enforcement, or they could walk it directly to we used to walk it directly to the desk. I understand for security reasons we might not want that, but we always have someone standing right there. They could just hand it to them, and then they could deliver it, so that we're not keeping school board staff here the entirety of the meeting. That makes sense to me. I think adults can pick up a form, fill it out, and deliver it. I don't think that that's a problem. And I know that we had talked previously in moving the non-agenda items to the end, just for continuity, because it's confusing for those who are watching on YouTube. And then we come back and we're having conversations, and it gets confusing. And then people are like, well, what happened? And then assumptions are being made on what people said in the audience. So I would be in favor of moving the non-agenda speakers to the very end, knowing that that's kind of fluid, so we can't give them a time certain. But then if they can sign up online, or they have the ability to sign up as they walk in, then they can kind of either listen or gauge where we are and when they need to be here, so that they can come just for that portion if that's what they choose to do. So that would be my recommendation. It's just for continuity. I think that makes sense, but I'd love to hear what other school board members have to say. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Vice Chair. Stay with me, guys. This is going to take a minute. So the way I looked at it, we have basically 4 options. We can stay with the current, and I'm going to walk through what I think are the disadvantages that we've discussed with that. We could put the non-agenda comments at the beginning. I'll talk about what I think are the pros and cons. We can put the non-agenda comments at the very end of the meeting, or we could go back to the way we had it initially and have that period set aside before the meeting starts. So under the current, the folks that are coming to speak on non-agenda don't know when they're going to speak. And our meetings can vary substantially in terms of how long they go and how long it gets to that period. Even if they're tuning in on Orange TV, if they live on the west side of town or the far east side of town, by the time they figure out it might be time, by the time they get here, even though they may have, signed in ahead of time, they may not make it. Also, that leaves us with that period in the middle of the meeting, as you just mentioned, where we cut out. That raises questions in people's mind, what's going on, and the issue that you raised when we discussed something that was going on, then they're really puzzled about what we're talking about, which we saw very recently. So I think those are, to me, two rather significant downsides to this. If we put it at the end of the meeting, the first concern, the number one concern, that the non-agenda speakers don't know when to be here, is a little bit worse than the first, because now they're at the very end, and it's a meeting can last as short as 45 minutes if Vice Chair's sharing them. I might have beat you, but you're very good at that. Or it could last 5 or 6 or 7 hours. So there's a great deal of uncertainty. And one other thing I want board members to recognize is that it doesn't happen often, but when we have a very controversial or topical issue that is in front of the board, and we have a lot of people, it's not on the agenda, there's not a need for somebody to be able to speak right now, but if we have 40 or 50 people show up, and I have to tell them that they only get 1 minute, and we're only going to hear from 40 of them, or 45, and there's 60 people in the room, if I'm a member of the public, I tell you what I'm thinking. Why don't I get my 3 minutes? And why don't you hear from all of us? Because I'm here, and I've waited all the way to the end of the meeting, and I want you to wait until I'm done talking. And I think that that is a fair argument. That what that means is all of our staff needs to stay here, because we don't know whether a topic is going to involve something that the superintendent is going to want a staff member to either speak to or, work with that individual. So that means that I honestly don't think we have any certainty of how long our staff might be here. So I have significant reservations about that approach. If we move them to the beginning, towards the beginning of the meeting, and we've discussed this before, if it were like after the recognition ceremony, what we do then is we put the non-agenda speakers before the folks that are here for something that is on the agenda, a public hearing, which I think is very unfair to the people who feel like, I have to be here and I have to be here today, because today you're going to decide where my kids are going to go to school. And I'm going to listen for 45 minutes to an hour worth of other people who are here on something that may never happen, that maybe could be handled some other way, but I'm put behind them. I don't think that that's appropriate. So, I'm not keen, obviously, on any of these. And I know sometimes it feels good to change something, but when I think about how it worked before and why we had what we had, when it's before the general meeting, regardless of what time, we push the time back so it's more convenient. People can sign up in advance. That gives them more certainty that they're going to be on the they're going to be heard because they know where they are in that queue, which would be nice if they knew that also. And we have a finite amount of time. That means that the folks that are coming here for the agenda items are not having to wait, because even if those folks are saying, well, I know they're going to have an hour of public comment, so I'm going to wait. Well, sometimes we have no public comment. Sometimes we have 1 or 2 people. So if I'm here for zoning, redistricting of my school, I am going to be here at the beginning of the meeting, and I'm going to wait however much that time. If the beginning of the meeting is after the open public comment, the non-agenda public comment, then that's not inconveniencing me. So the folks who want to speak to us on non-agenda, they know they have more certainty. They're not having to wait an indeterminate amount of time. the folks that are here to speak on agenda topics are not having to wait for those on non-agended who should be less of a priority. There's no period at which the public is going, why are we not seeing this portion in the meeting? I can explain why we're not, but that's not an opportunity to do at each meeting. And so for all of those reasons, I would prefer us to go back to the way we did things, but talk about how we revise that to make it more effective. The one negative that we lose is having those people here, present, sitting through the recognitions. And I know that's valuable. For me, I don't think that that's as valuable as the benefits that I just listed. So let me go to, I'm just going to take everybody in the order they're in, and you can respond to that or throw out what other options you have. Member Byrd.
Thank you, Chair. Okay. I'm fine with whatever the board decides. I don't find turning off the broadcast and turning it back on that big of an issue, because we already do that when we have employee matters and discipline cases anyway. So I think people are pretty accustomed to some things are broadcast, some things aren't. But you know, if the board feels strongly that way, then that's fine. I understand everything that you said, Chair. And while I think it would make sense to go back, I do also like having them come and speak after we finish our consent agenda and before our reports. Mainly because also I think it allows us to be able to comment when it's school board member time to talk. If there's comments that are made in public comment that I think do sometimes need some addressing. Also, I think you know that I like the benefit of them, sitting through some of the positive things that we do in the school district, because as we know, sometimes people come and they really don't know sometimes the work that goes on within the district. So I think that it's valuable. I do. And I think we've seen some positives from having it in the board meeting and having those issues. I think we even had somebody speak saying, who was going to speak negatively but changed their comments to positive after they sat through one of our strategic plan updates. So I think it's a positive. And as also, we have to keep in mind that this is not something we're required to do. This is something we're doing as a courtesy. So I think asking them to wait, and even if it is inconvenient, there are other ways to address this, as I've always said. So if this is inconvenient for them, they can send an email. So I would my preference would be to still have them speak during the meeting. I think it just makes more sense, but if the board is happy, wants to go back, I'm fine with that as well.
Okay, thank you. That was really helpful. Let's hear from Member Ferrant. I have to step out for just a minute.
Thank you. So just a few thoughts. I do think that I like the way that it is going right now, where, as Member Byrd had discussed, where members of the public get to come in, they sit through the majority of the meeting, then we stop. It's public comment time for non-agenda. Can't stand that. I do wish we could switch the wording on that, but I think I'm the only one. And then they speak, and then we have that time afterwards to be able to comment. Because the way it was before, people would come before a meeting started. It wasn't recorded, so nobody even, members of the public may not even realize that that's happening. And then at the very end of a meeting during board member comment time, things were being discussed that were sort of like just out of the blue, that nobody really understood like where they were coming from. So I think having that where they speak, we wrap up the rest of our meeting, and then it's board member time to comment or share different things. I think that works out better. I would like to suggest that we start at 4 o'clock if we were to keep it at that, because then that gives everybody can just kind of move out a little faster. Our staff doesn't need to stay here till late. Personally, I still believe that we should just keep the video rolling. I don't believe we need to shut that off. I have seen in many districts where the recording is from the back of the room. It is not zeroed in on the person who is speaking, which if you're going to use that, then I know many have, there's been comments from the board table where there's a concern that members of the public come just to get their little 2 seconds of recording and then they post that online. If it's being recorded from the back of the room, that may not be what they're looking for. But I believe it gives the entire county then access to see what is actually going on in the boardroom. What are we listening to, then what are we commenting on afterwards? So for that reason, I do think that it would be beneficial to have the video recording. And then I also believe if recording is turned off, if we are not going to record it and we turn it off, we roll whatever they roll during that time. The moment that public comment is over and board begins speaking, even if it's to discuss what was just spoken about, that happened at the last meeting where there was a good, I don't even know how many minutes, 30 minutes maybe, of discussion with members of the public that had just spoken. And that was not, from my understanding, that was not recording. And so I think that needs to be, if it remains off, I think we need to just have that come right back on the minute that people stop speaking. That comes right back on, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I didn't see that correctly, but so that would be my 2 cents. Start at 4 o'clock. Keep the public comment in the middle, like we've been doing after the agenda, all that stuff. And that's it.
All right. Thank you, Member Front. Member Castellano.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, I agree with Member Gallo. I agree with Member Byrd. I agree with you, Chair. And Member Ferrant, I think we should turn it back on after we have those members of the public speaking so that they can benefit from our discussion. So I'm kind of good with anything that y'all decide. Whoever spoke last, I agree with you.
I'll be speaking last. No.
I can see the benefit of starting at 4. I see the benefit of having our public comment beforehand to give certainty to those people who come. I see the benefit of having people stay during the meeting and watch and listen. And so there is not one perfect way to do this. Each way we've tried has pros and cons. So I'm good with whatever the majority of the board decides.
All right. Thank you, Member Castellano. Member Felder.
Thank you, Chair. Member Castellano said what was in my mind. There's some pros and cons to the last way we did it, about 4 o'clock. My only concern with the 4 o'clock is those teachers that work in middle school. It would be very difficult for them, and then parents who don't get off until 5. But then our cabinet, who's here at 8, 7:30 in the morning, and they're here. If we start at 5, they may be here at 9 or what have you. So I will, of course, agree. I will not throw a temper tantrum if the board doesn't go the way I want it to go. But I do have some concerns that I think that we need to hear the public input. I sort of like how we're doing it now because I think the public needs to know some of the great things that is occurring in our district and what some of our schools are doing, some of our administrators and children. And I think it's important that they come in here and it not be just a time of complaint. And I know it's not always a time of complaint. People come for a lot of positive things they want to. We used to have this guy to come all the time and just stand up and say, I thank you all for what you're doing. I can't think of his name, but he would always come and say something like that. But I think it is important for us to hear what the public is saying, and because we owe it to the members of our constituency because they voted for us and we represent them, so they have the right to have us listen to their concerns. And some people can't, if the board meeting started late, then it may be difficult for some of them to be here if they have to wait all that long time. But if they're able to say what they need to say and we can hear it, and they'll be able to get home, because sometimes it is long. So I like the way it is now. In terms of the recording, I think it's important that we record, but then because if we leave it to people, they'll just record whatever they want to, but they'll still know it may not be televised, but they'll still be able to get the truth of the matter, because every time we meet, it's recorded, but it might not be visually like on the television people to see. So I like the way it is. I like the opportunity for people to come and we can hear their thoughts. I think those persons, as the chair said, if they have issues that's on the agenda, I do kind of feel like they should say some things first, because that's what we're talking about. We may have an occasion where something really bad happens and we have to address it right then. God forbid that would ever happen with us, and we have to change stuff. But for the most part, if they're here for something they know they were going to discuss on the agenda, then they should be heard. And then those that have these other issues, they also need to be heard. But I think those that should have priority. However, in closing, I will, agree with the board's decision, but I like it the way it is right now. I like the way the is set up right now. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Member Felder. Vice Chair.
Chair, could you put me in queue, please?
Oh, I'm so sorry, Member Gould. Let me do that now, if that's all right, because go ahead, Member Gould. Welcome.
Oh, all right, awesome. I don't mind the way it is now. I like the idea of putting it after our recognitions. The reason is I think when our meetings do go long, people get frustrated and leave. And I feel bad about that they didn't get to say what they wanted to say. That's it.
All right. Thank you, Member Gould.
Welcome.
All right. Vice Chair.
Thank you. So I have the last conversation that we had, I wasn't aware that it wasn't recorded. So when we do the public comments and then it gets taken up back to by the board, is that, do we not record those comments? I was under the impression that was being recorded, and that was what was leading to the confusion with the public, because the public didn't necessarily know what we were discussing.
My understanding is that it's recorded, we don't televise it.
It's not broadcast.
Broadcast.
So our comments weren't televised on YouTube?
No, my understanding is it's not, and what happens, I think we put into the chair's script when we're stopping. And one of the conversations I've had with Amy is that we needed to put something at the end when we're coming back so that they know. But no, it's not broadcast.
So if I can clarify, I have not done a good job at when the public comment is over and then we run right into a regular meeting at giving the team in the back, a kind of a clear demarcation of when they're to turn the live feedback on. What I think we need to do if we're going to continue what we're doing, we've talked about this on the side a little bit, is I hated to take a break because breaks, a 5-minute break is almost always a 15-minute break. But if we put a break into every meeting after the public comment, then that's a clear time for the team in the back to know, okay, we're getting ready to go back into our live feed. So I would say we do the short break, and then it will be, I think, easier for everybody, but it has to be short. So that would be my one suggestion if we're going to keep things the way that we are. Vice Chair, back to you on this.
Thank you. I think I would prefer the non-agenda comments at the beginning, just because it's time certain. We could do it at 4:30. We do want to give people time to get here, but they can also email us if they're unable to attend the meeting in person. I think that just that time certain is just, it's more predictable, it's better. And then we go into our meeting as scheduled. That would be my preference. This is not a hill that I'm going to die on. I just think that it's just too cut up, and then we put a break in an issue. We're just going back and forth, and we're losing people online too that are watching it. They're not going to sit around for 45 minutes to a blank screen. They're going to move on. I mean, they can always go back and then watch the end of the meeting, but there's a lot of good information that happens at the end of the meeting. That's when the board has discussions. That's when the superintendent gives their update. That's when Mrs. Invall would give an update if she needed to, and there's a lot of valuable information that people may be missing. Again, that would be, I think it should be at the beginning. I think in giving people the ability to sign on a week in advance is a great thing. It makes a smoother transition, and then we go into our business. Those who choose to stay can stay, and those who don't. And that way, it's just more seamless, and then we have a time certain on when we're going to begin the meeting, so those who are coming for a rule development or for a recognition or for anything is able to be here, and they know what time they're going to be. One of the issues that we have, and I know that it doesn't happen all the time, but one of the issues that we had in its current state is that when we were recognizing those employees that got promoted, half the time, because it was so busy in here, the people would come from across the district, or even maybe from out of state, to be in the room with them, and they were in another area watching it on TV, which they could have done from the comfort of their home. And that bothered me. Like, if people are going to bring themselves or bring family with them for their special day, I want them in the room so that they could be here and see it in the room, not via television. So that was kind of, and I know that there was a lot going on, but I didn't like that. So if we could at least alleviate that. So I just think it was cleaner the way we had it initially in my mind. But again, I guess we'll have to take a consensus. This isn't a hill I'm going to die on. People adapt, but I do prefer the chair's plan, actually. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Vice Chair. We've lost Member Salamanca. We'll come back to her when she returns. Dr. Castellano. No? Okay. No, Dr. Castellano. Member Ferrant is also queued up but is not present. One question I have, Ms. Emball. Can we leave ourselves the latitude in the policy to amend the timeline for non-public comment? And what I'm thinking is, rather than having to go through the whole rulemaking process, if we take whichever direction we take, and in 6 months from now or at some future point in time, the board wants to discuss it and say, well, we need to tweak it this way, or we need to tweak it that way, or we need to change it. Do we have to go through the whole process again to change the order of the parts, or could we write the policy in such a way that could be a decision of the board.
So I see some operational hiccups to that because if you're going to change it back and forth, it's hard for staff, those of us that are working on the.
Okay, let me clarify. I'm not asking a question about operational. I understand where you're coming from. And obviously, if the board was going to make a change, we'd have to take that into consideration, just as we'd have to do if we have to go through the rulemaking process to make a change. So I think I appreciate that that has to be taken into consideration, but I think regardless of which way the board might, if they choose to make a change, whether it's by policy or by direction, we're going to have those same variables. So can the policy be written in a way that through board direction, we can change the order of our hearings?
So this is kind of a operational and a legal issue. You have the ability under the law to regulate the time, manner, and place of your public input, public comment, whatever you want to call it. I think in order to do so, it has to be in your policy of the public, so it's transparent. The public knows that it's not this way, this meeting, and this way, the next meeting. So I would recommend it stay in policy. I'm not aware of any other district that has it fluctuating like that, very, very generic. What I'm hearing you say is it's kind of like we shall set a time, some sort of time for non-agenda public comment, and then also time for agenda public comment. I'd have to look to see what that is. I'd be hesitant because then it wouldn't be clear to your. It's not this is your meeting and how you want to govern your meetings. And so I know there's pros and cons to both, but I don't know how you can make it more generic and not be able to be transparent to the public so they know when they can come speak to you.
Okay. One observation. I don't think that most people that come here to speak go to BoardDocs, look for our policies to figure that out. I could be wrong, but I doubt that's where they're learning the process. So, and I'm not suggesting that every month we would be flip-flopping around. I'm just trying to figure out if 6 months from now or at some point in time the board wants to reassess it, as we've done just now, can we build in that flexibility? So, and my thinking was that there is a better way for us to communicate to the public, here's how you can speak and participate in the meetings other than our policies. So I think if we were able to build some flexibility for the board into the public comment period, we would probably also want to build into that policy a requirement that be readily available to the public. And I don't know exactly what that looks like. Something on our website that says, public participation. So anyway, that was my thoughts on that. Member Byrd just cued in. Member Byrd, your thoughts?
I was just going to agree with you. I don't think that that's where the public goes for information on board meetings. I don't think they would go look it up in the policy. They would go to our website and find out when the next board meeting is and how to sign up, which I think we do a decent job of explaining on our website anyway. So I would be in favor of having a more generic description in our policy, something like explaining that we do have a set time for non-agenda items, just like we do, but then maybe not put the times in there and and put in there that the board will do that. Also, I forgot to mention earlier about the electronic sign up. I agree with Member Gallo that I think having the electronic cut off earlier, like maybe the day before into business on Monday, is a good idea, and then having only paper sign up the day of, and that way those could just be thrown at the back of whatever electronic. That way we don't have to worry about someone logging in and signing in and messing up the already predetermined list. And I don't know if this is even allowed, because I know this is a rule development, but I am very interested in how the teachers feel, because I do have concern about the 4 o'clock time. I like the idea of moving it back for our staff and everything, but I am concerned about the teachers, and especially if we do decide to move public comment again. to 4 or that time period, I'm worried about the teachers not being happy about that. So, and not being able to get here. So I'm just wondering if we could ask our CTA.
I think it's, I
Is that
definitely
allowed?
think it's the discretion of the board to invite someone to speak. So, are
I would just
you
love to get
prepared
his
give us some
opinion
comments?
on this, if he has any comments to make.
Why don't you come forward? You can come forward and then say no. But then we can hear you.
So we can hear you.
I'm a teacher. I could have probably made sure you heard me from back there. But, I haven't heard, we haven't received any information from teachers that this is a concern. So my only thing was that I would like to reach out to them before I can speak for them. I think they would be okay with it because the board meetings tend to be longer. And so even people who might have missed the first few minutes, they probably would get here. But is this a permanent policy, or like if I hear back from them, could I then bring you their concerns is what I would ask.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
Right now, I
Thank you.
think it would be okay.
All right, thank you. Okay. When you brought that up, it reminds me that one thing I don't think we have landed the plane on is when the cutoff would be for people being able to sign up. So if we stay with the current format, which I still think the previous approach was better, for the record. I do definitely understand those board members who find value in people participating in hearing some of the recognitions as well as strategic plan and other things. So I'm not, it does have value. There are trade-offs, and I recognize that. But if we go with the current approach, I think we need to decide when those people who show up in person, when that cutoff is, and I want to make sure we're all clear on how I'm supposed to prioritize. And let me give an example. So we have 20 speakers that call in ahead of time, and we have 30 that arrive here in person. I just pulled that out of a hat. So if it were 20 people, no, I guess if it were 15 people that called in ahead of time, they would normally get 3 minutes. But, so we have 15 that call in, we have 15 that show up. So I'm going to take the 15 that called in first. I know that part. I'm sorry. Sign up remotely. Yes, I'm so sorry. Thank you for that. Yeah. Confuse anybody who's watching, including myself. For those who register online, I'm going to make sure that they're all heard as long as we can hear them within the 45 minutes. But in this case, I could hear them for 3 minutes, but I've got 15 people who showed up. So am I cutting everybody back to, that would be 30 people, what am I cutting them back to?
Hang on, I'll look and share. Your
1 minute?
right now, your categories are set at, I think it's 0 to 10. There it is. If there are between 1 and 10 speakers, each speaker will be given up to 3 minutes to speak. 11 and 20 is 2 minutes, and 21 and over is 1 minute each.
Okay, so in that case, would we hear the first 45, the 15 plus, all 30 of them for 1 minute? Is that how the board envisions the prioritization? And then we'll get to when they need to log in. Okay, I'm going to hear Vice Chair, and then I'll hear from Member Ferrant on that issue.
So I think that there's going to be, there will be more people signing up via the portal just in case and then not showing up. So I think that we would just add them in. So if we had 15 people sign up through the website and another 15 or say 20 to make it, show up here in person, then everybody would get the 1 minute, and we would just rifle through as quickly as we could and get as many people as we could, knowing that the 15 that signed up online, half of them might not even show up.
To clarify, though, you would agree that the ones who sign on, we take first. So if we run out of time, those who registered in advance would be the first to be heard. Okay.
I would agree with that,
Yeah.
yes.
And my inclination was to do exactly how you said, but everybody gets the same amount of time. I think it'd be very awkward to have two different amounts of time. I think we're going to be pitting people against each other. Member Ferrant.
I think the biggest key is to always remind the members of the public to be flexible, to flow, and be ready to, with a 3-minute speech or a 2-minute or a 1-minute. But just so that they know, I mean, for myself, when I was a parent, I would have rather had 1 minute and many people speak than when I was coming, it was 10 people got to speak and they all got 3 minutes and they rambled and rambled and rambled, and there would be 75 or 100 parents in here and only 10 got to speak. And as a parent, that was always very frustrating that I would come, I'd sit here and I would listen to others and agree with them or not agree, but it was frustrating that we didn't get to just have that 1 minute to just share our 2 cents. So I think if we just had a little, as far as like the online portal, if you have on there, you may be given 1 to 3 minutes to speak. Please plan accordingly, so that if they get here and it's 1 minute, well, we did mention that. And I think honestly, you can get what you need to say in 1 minute. You can really get it across, and when you condense it and you're prepared for that, I think you can share that in 1 minute. So,
Thank you, Member Fraun. I think I agree. I think that's really important, because while you may be able to say what you intended to say in 1 minute, if you've written a 3-minute speech and you spent hours writing that 3-minute speech and suddenly somebody says you got 1 minute, yeah, so we definitely need to prepare people that it may be 1 minute to 3 minutes. Let's see, back to Vice Chair. Is there anybody available to check and make sure? I'm sorry, Superintendent. I do want to know if Member Salamanca is coming back. Is everything's okay? Okay. Superintendent, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to make 2 points. One, we will have staff taking the cards. If you'll recall, we had some issues and concerns that the board brought up, that people didn't know what to do with the cards, that we weren't clear. So we will always have staff, whether we do it before the board meeting or after the board meeting. It's only 2 board meetings a month, and they rotate, so I don't see an issue with that. And then the second thing, when you're deciding whether you want to do it at the beginning, whether you want to do it at the end, I think it'd be important to recall why you looked at changing, and I think you wanted to give more people the opportunity to speak. I don't actually think that happened. I think you actually had fewer people that have shown up to speak with the change. And again, regardless, I personally, either way, we will be here. I do believe that the vast majority of those comments have been negative. They have not been positive. I'll go back and check, because I think a board member mentioned that there were some positive comments. So whether you start the meeting on a down note or you end on a down note, we're here to be able to listen to the public. But I think that was a majority of the board members' concerns, was changing the time so that more people would have the opportunity. Having said that, we didn't have the online portal, so I'll be curious to see if having that so that they can sign up ahead of time changes it. I don't know if it does either way. So those are my 2 points.
Thank you. That was very helpful. Vice Chair, you're recognized.
Just a quick question. Are we still requiring people to wait outside when they come to sign up, or did that change when we moved to a different format for our meetings?
I am not aware. Mr. Pacheco, are they waiting outside, or do we just allow them to come in?
And when you say outside, you mean outside the building?
Yes.
Okay. Outside the building. There was a point when we were not allowing people inside the building until shortly before the meeting because we were having some issues, interpersonal issues in the lobby.
Chair, board members, superintendent, that's correct. The team is very conscious about the weather and things that could be affecting the people waiting. So it all depends on that term. What we were trying to limit is the people that were going to be in the atrium or the lobby, but we do make some adjustments to that. So it all depends. And usually we even plan ahead if we know that there's going to be weather or of course, you know that this summer we were experiencing record highs. So we understood that we didn't want the people that were being in attendance to be waiting outside. Luckily, the people get more used to our timelines and the way that things have changed. So we don't see as many people outside as we used to lining up in the last couple of meetings, I'll say.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Mr. Pacheco. So I would be in favor of cutting that practice just because it's hot, it's rainy, it's Florida. We had an elderly gentleman that had some issues waiting outside. And I think that the streamlining it with the online sign up should prevent any of that because you can sign up online. So really those who are coming in person to sign up have decided to do so last minute. And they understand really there's no reason to wait all those hours because you're already behind a bunch of people. But yeah, I understood the reasoning for that practice and it made sense when we did it and it did assist with what we needed it to do, but things have kind of calmed down. So I would be in preference of not making people wait outside. So I know we got to make a decision.
Yeah.
So I guess I don't know, Chair.
All right, let me come back to the issue of the majority of the board members who have spoken prefer by a slight majority to stay as we are. If we stay as we are, we still need to make a decision of the cutoff for signing in. I know for me, the last point of cutoff would be when the speaking begins. That would be the last. I think the superintendent's preference would be probably earlier than that, and I recognize from religious. So why don't we hear from you on that so the board can? I'm not saying it should be then, but I don't think we should take new people to speak after we start.
Right, so I do think if there was a way for us to be flexible with that, if we already have, enough people that have signed up online, that the people in the chamber that have come in know you may or may not be able to speak. But if you only have 5 people that signed up online and you have 5 people in the chamber that want to speak, that they should be able to do that. I do like having the cutoff when we start because then we know and you know how many speakers we're going to have, how much time, as opposed to someone that is, in there and then decides a minute before we're going to take non-agenda speakers. I want to speak to that point. I do think the online piece is going to be very helpful, and we need to make sure that's advertised and that information gets out so people are aware. I also think we need to let especially staff that may not be able to come. Some of them, have to pick up children, they have activities, but that there's still that online option of submitting comments to the board. I know we have not done this. I'm not suggesting we do this, but we may want to think about if we do receive online comments, is that something that we want to read into the record so that we have that voice captured as well. Again, I'm not suggesting we implement that coming up now, but I do think that if the point is that we hear from our public, all of our stakeholders, that and they have that option of sending information to us online, we may get more people knowing that it would be read into the record. I don't know. Just food for thought.
All right. I do have some strong thoughts on that, but let me recognize Member Ferrant.
Okay, just a couple other thoughts. So if we are not videoing, which I think the majority of the board has suggested that they would prefer not to video, I do think it would be beneficial to the public to have the audio recordings posted on the website, where they're just every week that we have it, you just link that, I think it's an MP3 file, and you link that in the in our website. That way it's easily accessible. We don't have to overburden our legal team with public records requests where people are wanting to get that audio file, and it just shows that we're not hiding anything, we just don't video it, and it's right there. So personally, I think that would be beneficial to the public. If we are going to keep it the way it is, I think I would go with the after recognitions, but before we start the meeting. But I mean, I don't know. It really doesn't matter. And if you want to go back to the way it was, we go back to the way it was. But I think the reason I wanted it originally to be a part of the meeting was to get it videoed so that it was just streamlined. The public understood what exactly was happening during the meeting. They could hear it, see what was going on, and be a part of that. But if that is not going to happen, I think having it before is fine. But I would strongly like to have that the audio files accessible online. One other note, and I don't know if this is normal, how this goes, but I had somebody reach out to me that was not able to make it to a meeting. They were like 20 or 30 minutes late, and when they got here, all doors were locked, and no one was around to open the door. Is there a time where we lock all doors and do not let anyone in the building? Or, I hate putting people on the spot, because
So the only time, and that may have been Chair Jacobs' shortest meeting, where we were here for less than 20 minutes, and yes, at that point, if we're all gone, the doors are locked.
No, it was during the meeting. It was like I think a regular meeting. And
yeah, doors are not locked. They're able to come in, so I don't know what may have happened.
Okay.
There's the the buzzard on the doorway that comes into the garage, and that's manned. So I don't know what happened.
Okay. So maybe it was, and maybe it was that meeting, and I'm
once we leave and all of our cars are gone, there's if someone does come, they're still able to buzz and get a live person.
Okay.
But the doors are locked and secured at that point.
Okay, but just the buzzer. Okay, perfect. I think that's it.
Let me take Member Salamanca.
Thank
Member
you, Chair.
Salamanca,
Sorry, I locked myself outside.
That's funny.
Why I was stuck
Speaking
out
of locked,
I forgot my key. So excuse my.
I asked, would somebody please go check on her? Is she okay?
No one checked on me. But I was out there listening. I just was like, okay, someone will figure it out.
Oh, okay.
We thought you were on a phone call.
I was told you were on a phone call.
You walked out and walked in.
It's okay. It was a good discussion.
Good. So I don't need to. I was afraid I was going to have to catch you up.
Well, okay. So points ahead. I'm still not supportive of recording in general. But I think the rest of the board is too. The other one is, I have found it. Like, I don't know if there's that possibility, like Chair brought up on changing agenda, non-agenda order. So those who come to speak to the agenda really get that first. But I do find it helpful for those who do not come to speak to the agenda to sit through some of the good stuff that the district does, and the meetings and the discussions. I have seen meetings in which the tone of the conversation changes after they've had to sit to a lot of this. Before, sometimes it used to be, the first thing they do is come and discuss some of the things, whether we agree with them or not, and then they leave right after. And they kind of got their word in and out, but they didn't stick around for some of the things that really is what we're talking about and doing every day here. And what some of our staff is doing. I think it's also helpful for them to hear from, Clinton, from OSPA, from some of these folks that are talking about what our staff do every day. So I have liked the way that we've been doing it. I'm supportive of moving it earlier if that's needed for our staff. I'm supportive of having things online so that more people get to speak to us. But I wouldn't be as supportive of going back to the way it used to be, where the first hour or so it's folks coming, talking to us, and then leaving, and kind of missing some of the either recognitions or bulky of like the work that we really do. So that's just my 2 cents.
All right. Well, thank you. It helps to have you back, kind of. I don't agree with you, so that doesn't really help me, but it helps clarify things. But again, I understand where that's coming from. There have been times when I have recommended people to participate in the Orange County Experience. That's what we call it, right? No, that's what we called it there. I'm sorry. What do we call it? Yes, sorry. Yeah, Leadership Orange, sorry. Because, for the very reason of they might have a negative connotation about our school district, but they're interested enough to be here and express that. And almost always that has resulted in a much more informed member of the public that has a greater appreciation of what happens. They may still have their concerns about a particular area, but it's a broader understanding. So I understand where you're coming from. Member Kester-Denel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to maybe provide some context to why some members of the board are reluctant to videotape the public comment. I came in favor of videotaping and being very transparent. And then we had a time when the public comment became so rage-filled and it was exploited. There were people who had very little or no relation to our schools coming in and creating a dangerous setting for us. There were threats to the board members. We were on high alert. We had lots of security in the room. We had weapons that were removed prior to people coming in.
That's right.
And having that circus environment televised would only exacerbate that and elevate the tenor. And there were people who did videotape what they could with their phones and then would elevate that to social media, to Fox News, different places, and made our school board meetings a national issue. And it was not good for our students and our teachers and the work of the board. So I think when the members of the board here discuss whether or not we want to videotape and broadcast the public comment, it kind of triggers some of us. And I don't want to go back to that situation. We do not mind listening to people with opposite views or with great concerns. We want to know that information. We want to know what we can do better. We want to know how to keep our kids safe. But we are not going to be used and exploited. And if that's one way that we can kind of protect the district, I think it's worth it. So, thank you.
Thank you, Member Casterdental. And one of the other significant concerns I have in those, I haven't been on this board that long, but those of us who have been on the board for 4 or 5 years even can have recollections of testimony, if you want to call it testimony, that we heard here, that within a week's time we would get factual information from staff members that demonstrated that what we heard was not accurate. And that is the other reason that I am very uncomfortable with televising it, because I think at that point it would be impossible for our staff to have the information that they need to dispute what the facts are. But even if they did, then we would have a point counterpoint type of environment. So I've just seen enough situations where the truth is not being communicated or civility is not being fostered. That, for those reasons, I'm quite concerned about it. Superintendent, I would like us to slow think the potential ramifications of reading public comments. So I think I just, rather than go through let me clarify, if you all know me. It seems to be my nature to kind of figure out what could go wrong. But I do think it's helpful to think through what could go wrong. I'm really not a pessimist. I don't think everything's going to go wrong. I just want to be prepared for those things that do. So I'd rather us slow down and think through that. And this is one of the reasons that I would like for us to have the flexibility to come back, and kind of like we did with this, we called it a pilot and we said we're going to evaluate it. Superintendent had, I think it was the superintendent that brought up, we're going to have this online registration. It would be nice to see how that plays out. We have had more negative comments about this change than we've had positive, but that may be eliminated. The positive things about having the public here are very valuable. So I think based on what I've heard, we're going to go forward with the way we've done things. We are going to allow people to sign up as late as when the public comments start, if there's still room to take speakers. Superintendent, that means that your admin staff will need to be here until that time, and you're comfortable with that, correct? Okay, so we're going to do that, and we're going to prioritize the speakers the way we've discussed. We're going to make sure we post on our website in a very visible way. This is the way you can provide public input, and it's possible you won't be heard because of the number of people and the time limit, or you may be given 1 to 3 minutes to speak, so prepare your comments accordingly. So, and then again, Ms. Emval, I think the majority of us would probably prefer the flexibility. So look at how you can come back to us with a rule that provides an opportunity. And if not, that just means we're going to have to go through a longer step process, which isn't the end of the world. Okay, Member Byrd, hang on a second. Dr. Vasquez, I was going to call Member Byrd. Let me recognize you first. Okay, Member Byrd?
I just have a question and this is probably for the superintendent. Will we have, when the electronic sign up becomes available, we have like a button, one of our big things on our main page, maybe that says sign up here to speak at board?
Like an easy button?
Like an easy button.
Yeah. We'll make sure that
sign up button.
That Scott's team works on that at least for the first, maybe for the first month people get, or the first 2 months. I'll have his team see how we can put that on our website.
Good. I get a lot of questions. That's probably the most questions I get is, how do I sign up to speak at a board meeting? So, and I know it's on our website, but sometimes getting there, it's harder. So if it's just an easy, quick button, it might be nice. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And let me just call on Member Gould. In case, Member Gould, you have any final input you want to offer?
I do not. I, like Member Gallo, will go with the will of the board.
Okay. But just for the record, if you're with Member Gallo, you're that's one more vote for let's change it back. I don't want to hear anything else from you. That's all I need. No, I'm just kidding with you. Let's hear from our general counsel. And then I'm going to hear from Member Ferrant.
Oh, okay. Do you want to let her go first?
Sure. Member Ferrant. Oh, I'm sorry. The superintendent still wants to talk. I'm sorry. I skipped over her. Superintendent.
I can wait till Board Member Ferrant speaks. Go ahead.
Okay.
I just wanted to see if I can get clarification. So if we're doing, when we say we'll continue the way it is, we would do like
that's what I was going to ask. I have two clarifying questions. So right now, I think I can. So right now you have non-agenda public comment after consent, and then we have non-consent after that. So like when we had the charter school here, that's on non-consent, actually, that's on your meeting here. So the people that are here for your agenda item, which is non-consent, we don't have very many non-consent items, but the charter school folks are going to have to, that are going to be here because you're approving their, or not approving their charter school application, they have to sit through non-agenda comment. So I need that clarified as one of the things that I wanted. Is that where you were going?
Is that where you were going? Yeah, thank you, because I recognized earlier, there are still ways we can change the agenda itself. So Member Ferrant, your thoughts on this?
I don't know, the more we talk about it, the more I'm kind of like going back to the beginning, like the way it was, which she'll love me for that. But the only reason it starts to get a little weird because now we have to, so what I was thinking is somebody mentioned this earlier. So the public comes, they have to sit through like everything. And then if we do strategic plan, that gets long. And half the time we have like half of the public leaves and we call their name and they're not here. That never used to happen. If you came to speak, you were here and you stayed. But then if we put them before strategic plan and all that, now everybody else who came here for a board meeting is sitting through all the non-agenda public comment time. So I can see, and if honestly, the main reason for me wanting it within the meeting was to have it recorded, like videoed. And if that is not going to happen, I would be in favor of putting it back to like a 4:00 public comment time. I don't even know if we can we name it something instead of pre-agenda meeting? Just something where it's like public comment time. And then that would happen at 4:00. Our meeting would start at 5.
You can call it open mic.
Yeah, something.
No, but you can call it.
So we call it internally because it's easier.
But I think too, if people know that they're signing up, they can sign up online. Mm-hmm. They're not having to rush here to try to be first in line. That's what was happening before, and why there was a huge line, because only 10 people were allowed to speak. If more than 10 people showed up, there wasn't enough time. So I think allowing more than just that 30-minute, maybe even 50 minutes. So then we have a 10-minute break, and then we come back at 5:00. So that would be my suggestion, I guess, just so that it's more streamlined. And then if we can encourage the public, if you'd like to stay, you can hear a lot of great things that are happening, like that.
I'm going to suggest, if it's outside of the regular meeting, open public comment, I think is a good term. If it's in the meeting, I think open public comment could be a little confusing because we want to make sure they know it's not on the agenda. So if we do it during the regular meeting, I'd stay with non-agenda public comment. If we keep it in the meeting, then we have a decision about whether we're taking the public hearings before we're taking the non-agenda public topic. But it is the non-consent agenda items that may result in the public being able to speak. I'm not sure if all non-consent items result in opening it up to public comments. I'm not sure.
So if it's on the agenda and you're taking a vote, okay, like for a charter school, you are taking action. So the public would be able to speak to that. But that would mean if you don't move your non-agenda or your non-consent to after consent, those members of the public that want to speak on an agenda item would have to sit through the non-agenda public comment before they could speak on the item that's on the agenda.
Okay, but let me clarify. You just said if it's on the agenda, then the board's going to take action. So the minutes are on the agenda.
Those are ministerial, right?
Right, so not everything that's on the agenda that could be pulled off the agenda for non-consent require a public comment period. So
Right.
that's what I was trying to determine is the majority of what's on the agenda would require public comment. Okay. Member Gallo, then Member Byrd. Superintendent. I'm sorry. No, I just forgot to take her off. I'm sorry. No. Oh, you are. Oh my gosh. We keep taking, I'm sorry. We keep pushing you to the end, and then I'm like, inquiring minds want to know, and so do I. What's on your mind?
So a couple of points, and both Board Member Castrodental and the chair really said it very well as to why I have serious concerns about broadcasting. Those were the 2 points I wanted to make, and I won't say anything more about that. Secondly, I do think that we may have a reversal now since Board Member Ferrant changed her mind. So I was going to ask for clarification. Mm-hmm. Are we going back to where we were, or are we keeping it the way we were with a small modification? I do believe there is great benefit in the public hearing strategic plan updates, hearing the recognitions that we have, so that they can learn more about us. The vast majority of public comment that we get is not positive. It's helpful because it helps us improve. It helps us look to see how we can better serve our community. But if all they are able to do is come, give their negative comment, and not learn anything about our district, I think we're missing an opportunity to share what a great organization we are and how we serve our public.
All right, thank you. Member Byrd, and then I'm going to call him Member Gould. Oh, Vice Chair, then Member Byrd, then Member Gould.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So a couple of things. I get where the board members are coming from, and I love celebrating the wonderful things that our district does. I do think it's helpful to know because there's a lot of positivity. There's a lot of great things going on within our districts, with our students, with our teachers, with our staff, every single day. I would like to point out that the majority of people that come to speak to us in the non-agenda comments don't vary very often. They're usually the same people. Once in a while we get that one off or that two off that do want to come to and talk to us about a certain topic. So those people that come to speak, the point I'm trying to make, are usually those that are very involved in Orange County Public Schools and are paying attention. And so they're aware of the good things that we're already doing within the district. And they've sat through, for 6 months now, they've sat through and seen all the great things that we're doing within our community. So I'm less concerned about that because I believe that if you're taking the time, except for ones that have one issue and they just want to come and let us hear and we respond or whatever, the vast majority are already involved and are aware of how great we are. We may not just be good in the areas that they want us to discuss with us. So I would be fine, as I've stated before, doing the pre-agenda. It's just a set time. It's very clean cut. Everybody knows what to expect. Then we start our meeting at a certain time. If the board is more in favor of keeping it as it is, I would make the suggestion that we look at where we place non-consent. Maybe we take non-consent before consent, just so that we don't have folks waiting till the very end and going through everything before that they get a chance to speak, because we need to be respectful of our colleagues' time, right? We need to be respectful of the colleagues that come before us. We try to be respectful. And then if we want to keep it, could we look at moving the strategic plan maybe to after consent or non-consent? That might be contradictory to what some are trying to accomplish, which is having people hear the strategic plan. And I don't want our staff to be here longer than usual, but the vast majority of time, those who are speaking to us are staying throughout the entire meeting. They don't leave. So just a thought, a suggestion throwing out there again.
All right.
Not married to anything.
All right. Thank you, Vice Chair. Member Byrd.
Oh, I thought you were coming to me.
I'm coming to you last. And the reason is right now we have a tie vote.
Okay.
Just to put you on notice. Member Byrd.
I was just going to suggest putting the non-consent before switching the public comment non-agenda with the non-consent, and putting the public comment non-agenda right before the superintendent's report, in your report and ours. So it's right at the end, as opposed to making the non-consent people have to wait. That was just what I was going to say. I don't have a problem with having the public comment non-agenda people have to wait. I just looked at Seminole counties. They have their public comment non-agenda at the very end of their meeting. And so, there's no time certain as to when that's going to be, so they would have to wait and sit around and wait. I think in most of my experiences doing, when I've watched other government meetings, if you're coming to do a kind of non-consent public comment, you're kind of at the mercy of the business of the board in which you're going to speak anyway. I've never really noticed it ever. As far as I knew, we were the only ones that had a set time of a non-agenda public comment. Even with Orange County government, it seems like I remember it would, people are there sometimes all day waiting to speak at meetings. So I think if it's something that you feel that passionately about, you kind of know you're going to put in the time to wait around. So I don't have a problem with that, and I think that's probably the last time I'm going to speak on it.
Okay. Speaking of Orange County, so the reason we started the open mic, if you will, period, was me. And we did it at the beginning of the afternoon meeting. So the morning meeting was what you would consider our consent agenda type of stuff, the things that the public wouldn't speak to. And the afternoon was our public hearings. And so it was at the beginning. And we did have the chairman, the mayor at the time, wanted to put the public comments at the end of the meeting. And I will tell you, I strongly objected to that because I felt like we were on one hand saying, well, we're going to create this time for you to give us input where we don't have to give you that time, but we want to hear from you. And then we say, we want to hear from you. We've voluntarily created this opportunity to hear from you, but you're going to sit in these chambers for however long it takes for us to get through however many hearings we have. And at the end of all this, we're going to hear from you. So it didn't really feel like we wanted to hear from people if we didn't give them a clear indication of when they would speak. But we also limited the time to 30 minutes because all afternoon was public hearings where we were hearing for other members of the public and balancing that need to not have folks that were there for something that had to be decided that day at the mercy of 2 hours of public testimony on non-agenda things didn't work. So we did something similar to what we do here. In retrospect, I think I would have done exactly what we do here. It was one of those things when I came over, I was like, wow, okay, you guys got it right. So that's part of the reason I think, to me, this was an evolution and a positive change. The other thing, I do think one of the board members mentioned it, that I suspect I don't know this for sure, but the people that tune in to watch our meetings don't get to the end of the meetings in all likelihood because we have this timeout period. And I think there's probably more people who tune in than those that come and sit in the chambers to speak to us. But I don't know that for certain. These are some of the reasons that I like the idea of having the flexibility to come back and look at this again in some maybe predetermined period of time. Let me, Member Kester-Denel, I'm still holding off. I'm going to call on Member Gould last, so Member Kester-Denel. Oh, Member Salamanca. Oh, never mind. Member Gould, what do you think? I'm not going to behold you. I asked for your opinion, so let's hear from you now, if you would.
So, I am really,
On a nice sedge?
I know, right? I think that what we need to do is keep in mind what we really want to accomplish here, which is to hear public comment. And there are things that we can do so that public that comes, they also hear some of the great stuff that we do, like the recognitions and maybe the strategic plan. So I'm going to go back to my original comment and say, why can't we put public comment after those two items and then maybe do non-consent and consent, which I know just kind of throws this whole conversation over the.
All right, Member Gould. Thank you. I'll take everybody in the order, and then when it's my turn, I'll tell you why I think we shouldn't. But I do appreciate your input. So let's go to Member Kester-Denel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I know I originally said that I didn't have a strong opinion, but I have developed one. So I understand wanting to have people who are coming to comment listen to our recognitions and such, but I don't like the idea of interrupting the flow of our whole meeting with cutting into the broadcast where we're going to lose a lot of people who really should be paying attention, who want to pay attention. So I favor starting at 4 with 30 minutes of public non-consent, open mic, whatever we want to call that. And then having our meetings start at 5 o'clock and continuing uninterrupted until the end. And I think that's pretty simple. And simple, I think, is appreciated. That's all.
All right, thank you, Member Kester-Denel. Member Salamanca.
Okay, so I'm good with simple. I just I worry we'll go back to having big groups, big crowds, big lines show up, and then it gets empty right after when we actually start real business. And that was like one of the clear things when I joined the board that was happening a lot. I mean, you would have definitely a lot more turnout of people, which we do want to hear about. But also a lot more frustration that they didn't get 3 minutes for all, 50, 60 people that were here. So it's like you have more people come out. So I worry about only 30 minutes part of it because you have more people here because they know that they're coming, they're speaking, they're leaving. And then they're only going to give them probably 1 minute. And so maybe I'm taking, Chair Jacobs' role here of seeing what can go wrong. And I think we just end up in a very similar place that we were before, where there was a lot of frustration from the public that there's 100 of us here today. We all want to speak on this topic. We're all going to leave right after. Why don't we all get 3 minutes? And so that's my biggest concern of going back to that. Similar to Member Byrd, I think ultimately, like, the business of the board is for the items on the agenda, right? Like, we're here to talk about the business of the district and the items that our staff are presenting to us and the superintendent's presenting to us. So, like, board meetings are really a place for us to get some of that work done. All of us are accessible on email. All of us are accessible, and we can continue to work on ways where we can get more public comment online, on email. And so I want to maximize more time for them to speak to us if they really want to speak to us, even if it's later in the day. At that 3-minute mark for 45 minutes, what we've had. But I worry about us moving too much in the direction of wanting to hear from everyone as fast as possible, first thing in the meeting, and then having the same frustration of not all 100 people can speak to the same topic. Because I think that's kind of where we'll end up as things continue to be very political and controversial. And some of that has simmered down where the folks that feel really, really strongly are still around. We're still getting the same emails. We're still hearing from folks, but it's not, I guess, as intense of an environment first thing as you walk into the room. So those are my thoughts. I would be supportive of switching it around so that we continue to focus on, like, the business of the board are the things on the agenda. We're here to give a space to talk to folks who are not speaking to the agenda. You just have to wait, and we prioritize those that come to speak to that, and our staff who are presenting to that stuff. So those are just my thoughts.
Okay. I love finding consensus. We're not gonna do that. I don't think today. My thoughts on that, and I could be entirely wrong, and I don't know how we're going to know without just testing it and finding out. I'm not sure that the correlation, that there's really a correlation between the number of people that come really strongly opinionated based on the change. I think it may be based on the topics in front of us, but I could be wrong about the number of people. There have been topics that have really galvanized a lot of people on one side or the other. And I think there's a smaller universe of people that are coming right now because of those topics. What we have right now is we have slight majority of the board that wants to go back, and I would say I still feel like we're in a piloting mode, because I don't know for sure whether what Member Salamanca said is correct, and again, I think there's values in both approaches, but we can't really do both. I do think if we go back to what we were doing, starting at 4, I still think we should allocate 45 minutes rather than 30 minutes. And when we've done that, when we allocate 45 minutes, being fair and recognizing takes people a minute or two to get to the podium, we end up starting 5 or 10 minutes late. I think that the better time to announce, to have officially the time our regular meeting starts should be at least 5:15, because people shouldn't be tuning in expecting us to start at 5, and we never start at 5, because we hardly ever start at 4, which, is a bone of contention of mine. I think when we say we're going to start at 4, we should start at 4. And just for the record, if I have a quorum here, we're going to start moving forward at 4. So I would say 4 and then 5:15 as our declared start time for the regular board meeting. Test out how the online registration how that affects our meetings, our participation, the tone and the tenor, and then come back, and what period of time would the board want to come back to have this discussion again to say, is this a better solution, or do we pivot back? What is it? Pardon me? Oh, okay. March, I was thinking, March work? Okay, because we really don't have this month to March, end of March, 1st of April, I want us to have enough meetings. Dr. Vasquez, you probably know off the top of your head, that'll give us 5 meetings. Okay, not including December, because the meeting in December, huh?
December's already been advertised.
Okay, thank you.
Because we have to worry about
I think
advertising deadlines, too.
Yeah, anything less than 5 meetings, I don't know that we'll have meaningful data. Okay, so I think that's where I think we are, Member Farad? Okay.
We're wrapping up. So just one really quick thought. I know we had mentioned this a while back, but I would love to do a pre-recorded video, so we don't have to sit here and go, okay, let me discuss all the rules. We just have a video that's playing. We have a link when they sign up online. It says, what are the rules of coming and speaking? We have QR codes throughout, like what are the rules for speaking? There's like QR codes, they can check it out there. And then we reference that, hey, don't forget, if you haven't checked out the rules, go right now onto the QR, it's on a blah, blah, blah. So that you don't have to be speaking, and it can just be a quick, it's already going before maybe even it's like a 1 or 2 minute video. 1 minute, I feel like we could do it quick, especially if it's pre-recorded. So I would love to just suggest that one more time, but I love what you're talking about. I think it's great. And
Okay. So I think that's a great idea. Let me check with General Counsel, because one of the things I really hate to say, but in the event that we have a disruption in the chambers that causes us to remove somebody from the chambers or trespass them, I am supposed to have put them on notice ahead of time. And I don't usually read that part of the script because I think it's so off-putting. And I need to know from General Counsel if that is in the introductory part. Can somebody else say it? 1. And 2, seriously, because it's just so rare. But I remember the time when we had a group in the back that was frightening and threatening. And I think if somebody is, certainly if they're threatening the board, we need to be able to have them removed, not just for the board gets to get out of here. It's for the members of the public that are in the audience that we need to have that ability. So would that be sufficient if it's pre-recorded?
So we can do the pre-recording. I would say that legally to protect us, the board, you would have to, if something gets out of control during a meeting, you would warn them, you need to calm down or else we're going to. So you would give them that warning there. And then if they didn't adhere to that direction, then they could go away. So is the pre-recording enough? I don't think so. Okay. I think you'd have to actually step up and tell them during the meeting.
And in the case of somebody who's threatening the board, I am hoping you're not telling me that I have to say, sir, you have a gun in your hand, but I have to tell you I need to read you your whatever, Miranda, what are those rights? Obviously, I don't really care what your answer is to that, right? So
that's different. Okay, it's for those that were talking out, the ones that were speaking out and that kind of thing, because you have, as the board chair, you are in control of the meeting. Yeah. And so I think giving them that warning is good. And we have that language written for you already. Yeah. So
yeah, I know. That's why I was thinking that could be in an introductory kind of reminder that the board does have this right or whatever. That could be that it's put in there. But you're saying I would still have to say it. So what's the point in saying it twice? Okay. Dr. Vasquez.
So I thought we were landing the plane, and then I heard something different. Well, okay, I just need clarification because I thought all we were looking at changing was whether we kept the after or before, and now I heard time change as well. So can I get clarification on what the board, because I don't think there was agreement on the amount of time either. That was discussed.
The time I thought, and for
so from 30 minutes to 45 was
45 minutes. We always had 45 minutes, so
up to 45.
Yeah, okay, we had 30 minutes up to 45, but to be honest, anytime there were enough people to fill up 45, since I've been here, we've almost always taken the 45. So we would start at 4. Speakers would have up to 45 minutes. Our regular meeting wouldn't start until 5:15. The reason for delaying...
30-minute break?
The reason for that is that this board rarely starts at 4 when we say we're going to start at 4. I know I don't like that, but we can, as I said, we can just say, guys, I'm starting the meeting at 4, whether we have a quorum or not. So we can do that. Also, the 45 minutes can sometimes take a little longer than 45 minutes because we still had this period where I have to speak for 3 or 4 minutes for the lay of the land before we hear from the public. So that takes a few minutes. So that takes us to 50 minutes. We can still stay starting at 5. I just felt uncomfortable, superintendent, that so often we don't start at 5. And
I think that's on us as a board, that we're not starting on time. I really think that doesn't speak well for us as a board. But more importantly, now we have 30 minutes where people who are here are just sitting with nothing to do. So I have an issue with that break in time. I also have an issue, if we say our meeting start at a certain time, we should start. And as a board, we should be committed to being here with plenty of time so that we can do our due diligence. I do know there are emergencies that occur, and I'm not speaking about that. Cars break down. Something happened that you're interrupted. But as a board, we should be able to start our meetings on time, and having a filler of 30 minutes, I don't think speaks well.
Let's do this. Most of our meetings that started at 4, the regular meeting didn't start till 5:15. I agree with you. Some of it is definitely on us. Some of it is that my part of this script takes a little bit, and some of it is people getting up to the mic and them thinking, there's 15 of us, so we should have this much time, not recognizing that the in-between people takes time. So we'll go with your recommendation and start at 5. And since we're going to come back in March, we can kind of monitor that. And if we're not getting there at 5, we can evaluate why we're not. And if it's something that the board owns, then we can fix that. If it's something else, then we can adapt. So let's do that. Okay, okay. And we'll be back here with, yes, Ms. Zembel.
So what I'm hearing, starting at 4 o'clock with open public comment, we're going to change it.
Yes.
And we'll specify that it's non-agenda, and that do you still, the things that we've had as part of the pilot program, I think you are enjoying the categorization of parents, employees, teachers first, and we can do that with the online sign up. Are you also then, the time allotments between 1 and 10 is up to 3 minutes, 11 and 20 is up to 2, and 21 and over is 1. So you still like that. You still, up to 45 minutes, so I'm good with that. You still, the other part of the pilot that you added was the speaking of our unions and our student government. You still want that.
As part of the
regular meeting, yes. But that wasn't in that's not in your current policies. You want to maintain those practices because you still like those. And then when it comes to actual physical, it was funny, we went through all these things that we thought you might come up with when it came to the online sign up, but we did not actually think that you would give us a cutoff date and then tell them they have to do paper for the actual meeting itself. So that's actually helpful for us, I think, because staff we can open and close that window. So like if they try to sign up at 5:01, it'll say, sorry, your time has expired. There's a countdown clock. I don't know, for those of you who went in there's a countdown clock too. So I think that would be very helpful. And then the paper process, staff's doing that anyway. So that's going to be normal. And those in the paper process, are you just saying anybody who comes the day of the meeting, just in the order received? Okay, no priority, just in the order received.
So the question is, are we prioritizing by parent, student, teacher? Yeah, yeah. Okay, so so let's talk about what that means if we prioritize. So are we prioritizing that someone who has signed up online but is a third tier, and somebody who comes in person but it's a first tier, does the first tier come after the first tier, or are they the first tier after the online? Is that clear?
I think parents and teachers, whether they first, second, fifth tier, those should be
Did everybody understand the choices? Okay, let's hear from Vice Chair. Okay, option A is that if you're in tier 1, regardless of which way you sign up, you're prioritized in tier 1. Option B is there's a set of tiers for online, and then after the online, we take a set of tiers from in-person. Okay. Member Gallo.
Thank you. Just a quick clarifying question. The portal is mobile friendly, right? Like people can go in through their mobile. Okay,
Yes.
good. Then in that case, I would say that those who sign up online are prioritized, and then those who come in person are also prioritized, but they're prioritized at the end. I just think it gets too confusing if we're trying to look at online and paper and having them like shifted around. And those who went in online will be expecting to speak regardless of the priority. So I just think it makes sense to be, if you want to be prioritized, and you want to be, then go online. And if you don't have access to a computer, you have access to a phone. And I don't know very many people that don't have a cell phone. So that would be my suggestion.
All right, thank you. Member Felder, feedback on this.
Thank you.
Option A, option B.
Okay, option A, when you said the first tier, you're talking about the parents, children? Okay. All right, my suggestion would be, if the first tier, parent, teachers, or students, whether they sign online or come in, I think that should be the first priority because it's affecting them first. And then secondly, those persons, community people that are next. But I will always be in favor of the parent, the student, and the teacher having the priority, whether it's online, whether it's sign-in portal, the portal, or here. They should have the first priority. Thank you.
All right. Member Salamanca.
Yeah, I think option A, what I want to avoid is a parent shows up in person and they maybe don't get to speak, but people that signed up online who are from outside of the county, outside of the state, get to speak. And so I do want to prioritize above all.
That's option B.
Yeah, so I said that's
Okay.
Wait, I thought you said option B was you have one ranking here, but they're not ranked on each other, right?
Option A is if you sign up online, you're here, and then we have tier there. If you come in person, you are down here. And
Okay, so whatever
you want B.
option just continues to
B.
prioritize teachers, parents, students.
Same thing.
Regardless of where you sign up.
Same
Same thing as Member Feld said, correct.
All right, thank you. Member Farran.
Okay, the only thought on that would be on the online portal, it would have to say if you are not a current parent, student, teacher, staff member, you may be bumped to the end and you may not, even though you're signing up, you may not be able to speak. Because otherwise, then I just think like we need to just be very clear then as a district to say, if you want to come, you need to sign up online. Everybody can sign up online, like we do that for everything. Okay, so we literally do that for everything. You want to go to an appointment at Orange County, anything, you have to sign up online. So I think online should be prioritized. Okay, then the second tier, you come in here in person, even if you're a parent, if you signed up in person and you signed up late in a sense, okay, not online, then you would be prioritized by parent and all that, but you would go after the online speakers. That's what I think. Because even if you're a parent, I get that, but then we as a district, it's on us to promote that to parents and let them know if you do want to come to speak, you need to sign up online. And then maybe really on our website, it says that as well. Like, if you're wanting to speak, you sign up online. If you do not sign up in time, you would be bumped to the last. Like, I don't know, I think that would be fair.
Okay, let me offer, I still need to hear from more board members. Let me offer that rather than telling people you may not be prioritized, I think it is a good idea to let people know in that online sign up that priority is given to, and, you know, list student, parent, teacher, so that I think that's a good way of letting them know you might not get to speak without like putting it in their face, but yeah. So I think if we focus on that. And so I need to hear from some more board members. So sorry, but let's go to Member Byrd. We'll go from that order. Member Byrd, what's your thought, A or B?
My thought is A, separate, that online gets priority.
Okay. Member Castor-Dental.
Thank you. I have a quick question. So if, when people sign up online, do they know that it's a 45-minute time block? And do we have certain slots that we're giving? Do we give like up to 45 slots?
No, we go ahead and we say up to 45 minutes because some people's so I guess, are you asking, is there like a queuing system? Is that kind of what you're asking? Or we let them know that there's a priority. We let them know that there's up to 45 minutes and that they may not have an opportunity to speak. And this is just for the open public comment, right?
Right.
So we do let them know those things. So did that answer your question?
Follow up on your question though. Do you let them know what number they are?
No, because if it's open for the whole week, we can't.
We won't know it until everyone has submitted it.
Until that close. Remember we were talking about that closure window, and you had said release it the week before and then close at the close of business, like 5 o'clock that Monday before, and then we'll know what that group looks like, and they can be prioritized within that group. So you might be a parent that signs up on Monday, but because you're a parent, you might be bumped up in priority because there's 6 other non-residents that are before you that signed up earlier in the week.
I favor pushing people to use the online sign up and giving them priority, and then the rest will come later. And it also helps us organize and prepare for our meetings better.
It does, because you'll know ahead of time, and I don't know the logistics of when it could be sent to you, but board members with the online sign up, if we do it close of business on 5 o'clock, I would think by the next morning, you'll see who has signed up to speak, how many speakers they are, and the back of house way it looks that administrators can see, it bumps them all. It tracks when they signed up, but then it also then puts them in priority order, and we can change the configuration of it as well. So you'll know if there's 30 speakers that have signed up or if there's 10 or whatever, and then you can take your additional in-person speakers afterwards to the extent there's still time remaining.
And then on the sign up, do you have a space for their topic?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, so that's an A. Okay. Okay.
Logistically, if I may, Madam Chair, logistically, for those that are signing up the day of, I think we need to have a window of when they can sign up the day of and a cutoff time so that staff has enough time to prioritize them. Because if you remember what we had been doing before is staff was trying to prioritize, or whatever. If you're allowing them to sign up in person up to the meeting start time, we still need like 10 minutes or whatever, because sometimes it's crazy and they can't put them in order as they get them. So that's my only concern with logistically making sure that you have all the information you need to know at the start of your meeting with respect to how much time you're going to be giving every speaker to speak.
Yeah, thank you. I wasn't considering the logistics, so I would, for 3:45?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That way, when you fill out your card, the staff can sort them.
And logistically, I'm not sure if staff can start at 3:15 or if they want to start at 3:30 to 3:45. I would have to defer to Dr. Williams. for those that haven't signed in online. Yeah, we still would work. We would still ask. One of the things that we've put in the built into the online system is that they sign in with school board services when they get there, because, like you said, some people could sign up online and then not check in, so we don't know that they're there. You need to have all the information that you need when you start your meeting to know how much time you're going to allocate to each speaker.
All right, let me, so we have two different things going on. Let's finish up A or B, and then we need to define for sure the opening for day of and the ending for day of for signing up. Member Salamanca.
I just have one quick point on that, which maybe is, I'm fine if we go with option A over that, if that's where the majority lies, but I think the folks that Member Gala mentioned, which is those that are here every single time, will get it and sign up online and do that. I worry about the parents that come once a year, and the only time that they come once a year, they find out, hey, sorry, you should have signed up online, and they're not prioritized. And there is a good number of those that happen, and so I'm wondering if we're kind of creating a system for the usual folks that will get it, and then the parent or the teacher. Yeah, so I just think, I don't know if we can, one, I think if we do A, we just have to tell people, like, I'm all for moving everything towards mobile and all that, because I think it's great, but I think we just have to be very clear, or maybe, give folks a little bit of grace when we first start on, like, hey, we know we just started the system, sorry you didn't sign up online, but if this is like the only school board meeting you've been to, I want to be mindful of those that are not always here, are not always going to be on the phone. That's all I'm saying with option A.
So are you an A or a B? Member, are you an A or a B? I think she's a C.
No, I said I was fine with just, with A, prioritizing parents and.
Okay, you're an A.
I think we just said A, but still move heavy on moving online.
Okay, no, you're right. You're an A. You're an A.
Yeah, fault denier.
Okay. Member Byrd, and then I'm going to ask Member Gould for input. Member. Did it again.
You skipped her?
I skipped.
Okay,
the
go to her.
vice
Go to
chair.
her.
Vice Chair, you're recognized. Did it again.
That's okay. There's a lot going on today. I was just going to say, which everybody knows that I'm in favor of A, but I would like to remind that they're all our constituents. All these people, whether they go have kids in school or not, are still voters, and they likely either voted for us or against us. But they're still voters in our community and therefore have a right to voice their opinion at a public meeting. I'm all for prioritizing, but not to the extent where we're limiting access to any constituent in Orange County, and I think that B limits access for them to be able to speak to us other than via email. So I have concerns with that. So and I don't think we are. I think the majority is leaning towards A. I was just going to say, if we are leaning towards B, then I would recommend that we do online signups only and no in person, just to alleviate the problem.
Okay. Member Byrd.
That's actually what I was going to say. Do we, in hindsight, do we even really need an in-person sign up if we are trying to move towards digital sign up? Is my kind of point to this. And maybe it's something we phase into, but I think that's pretty reasonable. And I believe it was Member Farrant maybe that said that everywhere you go, you have to sign up for an appointment, or it's pretty typical. I don't think it's anything unusual. I think it will be something that people will have to learn, and once they learn, this is how you speak at a board meeting. You have to sign up ahead of time. I don't think that that's unreasonable to expect, and I think if it's a parent that has a problem that they want to discuss with the board, I think that they learn that that's how you sign up. They sign up for the next board meeting, or they email the concern. I wouldn't be opposed to going completely to digital sign up. It would be a lot easier for our staff at the board meeting, but Yeah, and everybody's got devices in Orange
So there,
County.
there
At
might
least all
be
the
some
parents do.
accessibility issues. You may have some elderly that don't have computer access or cell phone, and or potentially we may have an electronic hiccup, so we're going to have to do online. So we have to account for those. I mean, we're testing the system now, but there could be some issue.
Okay. Member Gould.
Please.
Member Gould?
She's on.
Okay. Member Felder, what I thought you wanted was for students, teachers, and parents to always be prioritized first.
Yes, I want them to always be prioritized, whether they're signing up in person, mobile, whatever. I think they should be prioritized because we are here to service them. My other concern, though, I understand, and what Member Byrd was saying, most people do have devices, and we do sign up for everything, anything you want to do. Doctor's office, you got to sign up. However, in light of what Amy said, some people may not have access to digital, and if you live in certain communities where your Wi-Fi is menopausal, I mean, just comes on whenever it gets ready, that may be an issue. Yes, so I think that I had that experience yesterday. So the policeman had to come and do some stuff for me. But anyway, yeah.
Bad experience.
I did. So I understand what you're saying, Chair, but also I am considerate of those persons who might have those issues. And we do everything digital. You're right, Member Byrd. But I just want, this person that comes in is having problems and need to talk and can't sign in. So I don't want that to be a must. Like, I will down that hill, Member Gallo. I don't, yeah, the A hill. So I'm good. Okay. Thank you.
I wasn't sure which experience you had yesterday, but thank you for clarifying that.
No, I did. The Wi-Fi guy.
Did not.
Oh, you called the Wi-Fi for you?
Superintendent, you're recognized.
Yeah, so if I may recommend, I really do like the online sign up. We could have devices set up outside here, and we can have them sign up digitally. And for those that don't have the access at home and they would have to come here anyway, it would still be online. And then we could look to see how many are coming here and don't have that or maybe didn't know, and see if we could then transition to online sign up.
That's a great idea. And I was going to chime in that while I have stayed completely out of this, you all have done a great job weighing in. I will say that I went to Quest yesterday, in the interest of personal disclosure, for blood work. Well, I signed up online ahead of time, so I had an appointment. I was prioritized. That was good. But when I got there, there was also a screen to sign in so that they knew I was there. And there was an option for people who didn't sign up that they could sign up. They weren't prioritized. So, right. So there were still people that had that opportunity, which is the superintendent's suggestion, which I think is perfect. Member Byrd, do you still have a comment? Have we heard from you? And Vice Chair.
So I just have a question with the recommendation from the superintendent. Does that mean it'll be the same portal that we'll be using, so we will no longer be shutting it down on the Monday prior, and just keeping it open, or will that be like a separate portal for day of?
So what we can do is that we can have staff look at what is most feasible. If there is a way to start up a new sign on, since we've closed one off, then we could still use the same system. But if not, then maybe what we would do is just have an electronic like spreadsheet or Google Doc that they would come in, fill in the information, and then we would just be able to email that to general counsel and to you. So we can work it either way.
You just mentioned email. Will there be a place where they can put their email address in?
Yes.
Okay, great.
There is now too.
That's wonderful.
And I don't know from an IT standpoint, because I don't build those things behind the scene. I know staff spent hours and hours, and it actually is. It's kind of exciting because it's a neat homegrown thing that we can use for other things. But it is. I don't know that they can now add another component for an online, but that's something we're just going to have to check internally.
Yeah, one of the beauties of this, I'm assuming that we're going to be able to capture all this in a database. And from the standpoint of communicating back to people, if, for instance, their topic is, I don't want to say any topic, because any topic I say is going to be controversial. Reading, let's go with reading. Science of reading, that's their topic. And we have their email address, then if we have something coming up that's focused on that we think they would have an interest in, that would be a way for us to reach out and let them know that this topic is going to be discussed. They might want to tune in. So, yeah, I mean, there might be other uses for this database in terms of just informing the public. So anyway, excited to see how that might benefit the public. All right, I think we've landed the plane. Do you need anything else from us that you know of right this minute?
Not that I know of, but I'm sure once we reconvene, we might have some additional questions.
And summary.
So as far as I know where we landed, and please feel free to correct me, is that we are going to start at 4:00 p.m. with open public comment. And it's going to be reserved up to 45 minutes. And the board's going to make sure that it polices itself well to end so that the regular school board meeting can start promptly at 5 p.m. The open public comment portion and the agenda public, logistically, we're going to have to figure out how this works, but it'll be okay. It's going to be prioritized. People are going to sign up online ahead of time. It's going to be prioritized. And then for the day of, we are either one, going to stick with the cards, or two, come up with some sort of other electronic means to capture those that are coming, that signed up in person on the day of the meeting. You would like them still prioritized, but we're going to have, we talked about a time cutoff for them to sign up. What I heard was 3:45 before the 4:00 meeting. What we'd have to do is a start time with staff, and I don't know if 3:30 to 3:45 is reasonable. 15 minutes. I'm looking over there because those two have done it logistically, or whether we would have to do maybe 3:15 to 3:45. 30 minutes. So 30 minutes is the general consensus. So for in-person people that want to sign up to speak, either at open public comment or for the regular agenda items, if they have not signed up online, because we're going to push that, they'd have to sign up between 3:15 and 3:45.
Let me ask a clarifying question there.
Yes.
Typically, when you are showing up and you're getting in line for something, once you're in line, you count. I'm thinking of a large crowd, and we say the cutoff for signing up is 3:45, and they've been there since 3:30, they're in line, and then we cut them off because the line is too long. I'm guessing there's no way around that, but that's why we're going to give them 30 minutes. But reality is, when I'm coming, I don't know a lot of people might be coming, and I might get there 5 minutes ahead of time and not be able to speak. It's just a reality I'm floating out there. I don't know what can be done about it, but Member Byrd?
Well, what if you just made it a lot easier? I feel like we're just making it way more complicated than it needs to be. If we're trying to go to electronic and make it easier, why not just shut off electronic sign up at a dead certain time, like 3:30? Like, everybody has to be signed up to speak by 3:30. If you want to guarantee your spot or you want to be prioritized, then you sign up 5 days in advance. If you just had something come up, then log in, sign up, but it's going to be shut down and stopped at 3:30. Like, why not just make it easy? As opposed to by 3:15 to 3:45. I don't know. I feel like we're making it too complicated for the staff. And if everybody's electronic, even if we have the...
We do have
the...
Yeah, we have 2 iPads that we were planning
iPads
on
in the
using with
front.
little stanchions. Have you seen like at your doctor's office or whatever? It's just like a little stand. We have 2 iPads that we can use to assist those, and school board services staff can assist if needed, those that may need assistance signing up online. So that was the whole thing that we discussed internally, was having a cut-off time and what that would be, so that we have time to prioritize properly.
Let's give it a try. I hear what you're saying. There are still people who don't. And will they know that if they got here at 3:30, will they know that if there are a lot of people that need help and they didn't get to the kiosk, that they're not going to be able to speak? Let's give it a try, because I'm probably thinking about something that's going to happen once in 3 years or something. So the time will be either 3:15 to 3:45 or 3:30 to 3:45. Dr. Vasquez, from an operational standpoint, you're either going to have somebody sitting down there for a half an hour.
I think we need to give them enough time to be able to prioritize, so I would prefer to have them down there earlier. And then if we find after a couple of board meetings that people aren't showing up that early, then they can come down a little bit later.
All right. No, I don't think so. So we'll set the time preliminarily for 3. They can get here between 3:15. They can sign up between 3:15 and 3:45.
For in-person day
For
of.
in-person day of, yeah. Ideally, this software is going to prioritize for our staff.
Yes,
But, okay.
it does prioritize already. So are we getting away from, and maybe I misunderstood, are we getting away from the close of business Monday before at 5 p.m.?
No.
Okay,
That's
so
online.
that's still there. It's those that sign up the day of the meeting. They have 3:15 to 3:45, but we're going to try to run them through the online, so it's all captured together. Okay, good.
Okay. Member Byrd, was there anything else? Okay. Dr. Vasquez?
And I'm sorry, I really don't want to prolong this, but if we have, let's say, a topic or we have a day where we have more people signed up electronically than we know are going to have time to speak, are we then just going to let the individuals that are here, let them know we already have too many to sign up, that have signed up to speak, or are we going to let them sign up and then we tell them, no, there's no time for you to speak? I know that that won't happen often, especially since we've extended the time and we can go up to a minute, but I'm just trying to
manage expectations.
Yes. And I suspect we're not going to have a lot, but that we would run into where we wouldn't have, 40 speakers.
So, in many cases, I would anticipate that we're not going to know. Maybe we know that we have 45 people that signed up, but we don't know real time how many people are there. So, no, I know they're going to have to check in. I'm just not sure if whoever's sitting there manning that desk is going to also be able real time to say, oh, filled up. These people are actually here. So for right now, I would say we probably can't. But if we find that we are able to monitor that data real time, then I agree with you. It would be worthwhile to say, at this point, it looks like we're full. But I watched the public hearing at the Board of County Commissioners the other day, and about half, not half, but a large number of people that were signed up and were there just said, never mind, it's been said. So even though we think everybody that has arrived and registered, they may not speak. So, okay. All right, we have anything, you're going to go through anything else?
No, what I'm going to do is we're going to regroup after this, not today necessarily, but we'll regroup and try to get you a preliminary draft of the pilot program to you all we'll highlight the requested changes. And
Pilot program 3.0.
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you. Anything further to come before the board, superintendent? Anything? Okay. This meeting is now adjourned. And you're going to show me how to